Hello and welcome back to the World Championships of Warhammer Underworlds. We're in the semifinals. Fish, it's going to be a good one.
I think it will. So today we're looking at a unique matchup we haven't showcased so far. We're going to have Daniela of Italy playing the Thricefold Discord.
Yep.
And we're going to be having him play against James of England using Gorechosen of Dromm. Interestingly, both players are using the same two decks.
Yes.
We have Blazing Assault and Reckless Fury on both sides of the table, so expect plenty of charges, plenty of attacks, and lots of fighters to go down early if I have any guess.
Yeah, two decks aggressive as they come. One interesting thing is Daniela has not dropped a single match.
No.
Went through pool play undefeated. Of course, both players are undefeated through bracket. James only lost one match as well, and that was
to Matteo of Italy as well, playing Gorechosen, who was featured yesterday in the quarterfinals. Yep. So should they both advance, there's a chance that they will be having a rematch in the final game.
That's right.
But before that, it's worth noting that Daniela has faced, I think, 4 or 5 Dromms up to this point and taken all of them, which means that he does appear to have the secret to taking them down.
Yeah.
Thricefold have several interesting abilities that will allow them to better do that. Probably the most useful one for them is the Vile Temptations War Scroll ability. For those who are not familiar, once per game, you can pick an enemy fighter and pick one of their equipped upgrades. That upgrade is discarded, then equip that fighter with an upgrade from your hand whose cost is equal to or less than the discarded upgrade. Particularly useful against Gorechosen because if they place Utter Ignorance, you can take that away, and now they don't have that ability to survive. You can do that at any point in the game. It just says once per game in your action step, but where in that action step? Up to the controlling player. So Discord player can see the dice roll result and say, well, now that I know I've succeeded, let's take that out of there. Or after they've succeeded, you have great fortitude, you're left on 1 wound, now you don't have it. Damage is not dealt, and you cannot play Final Frenzy to heal it because you weren't damaged. You simply lost a wounds characteristic.
Yeah.
So multiple very powerful counterplay options, and it appears that Daniela has made great use of that so far.
Yeah. He's certainly comfortable into the matchup, so it'll be interesting to see if that carries forward here.
Of course, dice are going to be dice, and anyone can take this game.
Yeah.
And presumably James has thought pretty hard about this, knowing all of last night that there's a good chance that he'll play into a Thricefold.
Yeah.
And so we can't expect a player of this caliber to be coming in blind.
We've seen some Dromm. Obviously, Dromm, a big part of the story of the tournament. There are 3 Dromm players in the top 4. So over on the other side, we're seeing a Dromm mirror match. They're powerful for a reason, but we've seen Thricefold once before on the stream. Do we want to just give a quick mention of their other abilities for folks?
For sure. So Inspiration, immediately after making an attack or a save roll that contains no successes, or after a friendly fighter is slain, inspire another friendly fighter. So before there were certain demons looking at other ones to fail, now you can choose. So a much more adaptable inspiration condition. Vexmore himself has the Indolent ability. If he has no move or charge tokens, he has +1 attack dice and Grievous. So if you come within range of him, he has a range 2 attack. Uninspired, that means 2 hammers with Grievous and 2 damage. But inspired, it means 3 hammers and Grievous with 2 damage. So
yeah.
Pretty accurate attack at range 2 for good damage as well.
I'd expect plenty of push tech and charge token removal being used to really leverage that for Vexmore.
Vexmore can move or charge to get into position, remove that with some of the Reckless Fury cards, and now he has no move or charge tokens and gains access to that ability. The other 2 fighters are both marked as evasive fighters. Immediately before damage is inflicted on an evasive fighter, you can roll an attack dice on a hammer or a crit, subtract 1 from the damage inflicted. So it's possible that even in addition to stand fast, multiple damage reduction options, so 3-fighter warband can still be surprisingly resilient. And of course, Daniele does have access to Reckless Fury, which means he could also have Utter Ignorance. So we may see fighters take a couple of hits to go down longer than you'd expected. Wicked Slice is an ability that Lassevier has. After an attack made by a friendly Lassevier, pick an enemy fighter that is not vulnerable, and within 2 hexes that fighter, inflict 1 damage on that enemy fighter. So effectively giving it +1 damage against the target, or being able to throw out another damage onto an additional fighter. They also have the ability Eldritch Enmity. Once per game, you can use this ability on a power step instead of playing a card. Pick 2 friendly fighters, push each fighter up to 1 hex. After each push, they must be further from one another. We saw earlier in the pool play that used a pretty good effect for positioning. Out of danger or into range of another attack. And finally, the Thricefold have a reaction feuding. Once per game, you can use this immediately after your action step. Pick one inspired and one uninspired friendly fighter and swap that inspiration. So you can have accurate attacks early game where you need them, and that can really improve both your defense and offensive profiles. So a candy player with Ricefold has a lot of tools in their basket, and we'll see if Daniela is able to leverage those today.
Yeah. It looks like both players are ready. Let's check with the judge, see if they can get started.
We've been given approval. Judge says it's time to go. So both players are have their fighters ready on the table. They're discussing each other's abilities, previous history throughout this tournament, getting to know one another. But I think it's going to be a good one. So stay tuned, folks.
Bear with us for a second. Our stream deck is still getting a reset here.
I was talking a little bit to James before the match. James Waters, James W. He lives in Sheffield, somewhat north of Nottingham, but does go to the Warhammer World Clashes. And he told me that it's okay to occasionally, throughout this game, refer to him as the James W., which of course stands for James Workshop. So look forward to seeing James himself do pretty well here, representing England, and multiple fans in the chat already hoping that he can bring it home. And as we all know, British football fans love to sing "It's Coming Home." They may get the chance today. But we'll play after this match, one more in the finals, and it's anyone's game. There are 2 Italians, 1 Canadian, and 1 Englishman in our semifinals, so any of those 3 nations could end up taking it. Players discussing how they're going to handle various dice rolls. We are using a different dice tray for this match, as you can see here in the bottom. James tells me he's somewhat of a superstitious individual and wants to use his own. Daniela has consented to this, and so we'll be using James's dice tray in order to give him the most comfort and familiarity. And it does, of course, have an excellent Underworlds logo with a bit of a crown, something I'm personally affinity to, and a little touch of English pride there as well. All right, we do have tech support over here. We're working on figuring out our stream deck so that we can adjust the round numbers and the glory count. So currently you'll see some numbers on your screen. Those are not accurate. They're left over from a prior game. We'll see if we can't get things unfrozen here and more accurately track things for you as we go along. Member of the chat by the name of Captain Shmogu saying that they made that dice tray. Thank you for your service. All right, we've been able to reset the glory count, and we've reset the round as well. Looks like everything is up and working. And so thanks again to Skylar for managing all of our technology issues. I'm only able to talk. I don't really know how any machines work, as discussed multiple times throughout this trip. But fortunately, we have him on site. He is still competing, so he's pulling double duty. We saw him on the stream earlier. Fantastic player, fantastic individual, and fantastic tech support piece as well. So very glad to have him on our team. And while I might be sitting behind this camera saying some fancy things, I've done very little compared to what he's done. And I can very easily say that, while it does take a village, there are some heroes who stand out more than others, and Skylar is very high atop that list.
That's true. Just scrambling with Skyler to help that out. I can't say enough about how much of his own time he sacrificed at the exact time when he would have liked to have been preparing for this. Kind of gave up that time and instead was putting it towards making sure that you guys were able to watch this. So.
And you had 20 new product reviews to drop yesterday, so yeah, really pulling all kinds of lots of effort out of him, and your whole team as well. So thank you for doing that. Thank him for doing all of that work, and
sure,
the Underworlds community is better for it. So we're glad to have you guys around.
Folks out there who've had a chance to take a look at some of the previews wherever you happen to see it, anything that you're excited for.
Confirming with Daniela, we're good to start, so they will begin the process.
Captain Shmugu, all players have their superstitions, and James really wanted to be able to have that dice tray for this game, and so we were able to accommodate that. Daniela, of course, was he says, I'm fine, I'll roll my dice wherever.
Fearless with ice in his veins. I don't care what kind of home field advantage England brings. I'm an Italian, and we are the best.
Yeah. But just to be clear, that's a big part of this setting up. We'd love to be able to bring this game for you. Make sure that any of these matches, we want you to be able to see them, enjoy them, all that sort of thing. But what we don't want to do is kind of mess with the experience of the players that are competing. They've worked really hard to get here, just into this room in the first place, and then to this table specifically. And so what we don't want to do is take away from that or impact their experience in any negative way. And so where possible, we're going to make those changes.
Yeah, if James believes this tray helped him get here, I'd hate to take that away from him.
Absolutely.
I don't want him to have any excuses if he loses either.
Looking at him, I see Daniela looking.
Considering the cards he's drawn, whether or not he wants to take a mulligan.
Daniela's looking very comfortable, cool. If I had to say, James, while not overly anxious, has clearly got a little more nervous energy going on.
I mean, we know he has plenty of fans watching at home. Yeah. There is a bit of English pride saying, we made this game, it's ours. Who are these Italians coming to take our title away? So
we've got the roll off. James is going to orient the board with two extremely aggressive war bands. Be interesting to think about what considerations are going into this.
So far, he's looking at the side of the board with no block Texas. As we've seen before, Dromm often appreciates that. Though you would like to think that with Reckless Fury and Blazing Assault on the other side of the table and multiple ranged attacks, that they have similar considerations. So what advantages one might advantage them both.
Yeah.
It's like James has made his selection, so Daniela will place the first token in neutral territory. They are using the 5s orientation for those following at home, meaning that the fighters will begin slightly closer together.
James with a big calming breath. Feature tokens coming down in a wide spread. Trying to think what role these are going to play other than tiebreakers.
Yeah, I'm not sure that there's very many that affect it. I'll take a quick look through here, see if there's anything in the objective
Well, I'll tell you what
cards.
They are going to do. I bet we see some inspired Thricefold in particular, delving them for cover, especially at the end of the round when the stagger was going to clear. I think that's going to provide a crucial defensive boost.
Yes, which they would appreciate, considering Dromm has the capacity to put out many dice. Reckless Fury doesn't have any mention of feature tokens in their objective deck. Some of the things that we've seen out of them in order to disrupt objective play won't really be in play for either player because they don't particularly care about where they're standing.
We're seeing what is safely noted as the two least consequential fighters coming down first. That'd be Vashtis and Herrex. Although Vashtis was a key piece to the assassination of the Sepulchral Warden in the previous viewing on stream.
We were able to see multiple times 3 damage put out on the Warden in the first activation, which is a frightening prospect if you're the player across the board from them. So Lazavir capable of putting out a lot of damage early and can threaten some key fighters.
And Vashtis with one of the longer threat ranges in the game, even uninspired, with a speed 4 flying and 3 range. With that range going to 4 when inspired, she can't lay out a huge amount of damage with that range attack, but she certainly can make sure she hits who she wants to hit.
Looking through the both objective decks, the only card that mentions objective wise any of the treasure tokens is the card Sally Forth, the Reckless Fury deck. Score this immediately after your opponent's action step if a friendly fighter with any charge tokens holds a treasure token in enemy territory. Now, we don't know that either player is using that card, but there are a couple of treasure tokens available in places we expect some fighters to be. So
yeah,
you may find that that's the case.
I would expect with so many fighters sporting range 2 or higher in this matchup, particularly when inspired, I bet you we do see that. We've seen time and again some of these top players really value those objectives that can be scored no matter what your dice roll.
Exactly. So only the Gorehulk left to deploy. James thinking quite carefully about his options. Do you dare put yourself close to Vexmore, who we know can put out a lot of damage, but is also a key piece to take out early? Gorehulk, of course, capable of doing 3 damage. Lasavir is now on 4 health in this edition, so not as easy to take down, but an important piece for the warband that you might want to be able to eliminate as early as possible.
James thinking real hard about this placement. I got to imagine he's thinking if he wants to cluster up, have all 3 of the Gorechosen clustered down there. The only way, I don't know that he wants to set Gorehulk in that forward spot, potentially have that be your first fighter lost.
Yeah, there is a chance, of course, with good damage output on the Thricefold side of the board, that if the Gorehulk is too exposed, then he's in danger as well. James thinking through what placements are available, taking another look at his card hand to say, is there anything that I can do to leverage either of these positions? Winning the board roll-off in this edition, not just for the boards, but also gives you some advantage in fighter placement, and depending on how you look at it, also token placement. So crucial for him to get, but it also means that, you know, in some ways, this game might be his to lose, and he would hate to say, I misdeployed, and that caused me to lose game 1. So incredibly careful player, just even in this preliminary setup stage of the game. We'll accept to see some careful play out of him. Now, notable today, because we are only playing 2 rounds, and they are the championship rounds, we have 4-hour rounds today instead of the 3 we had before. So players may take a little bit of time to consider their options, look through their cards a little more slowly than before. But seeing as these are the top-level players and there's so much to think about and so much on the line, a little bit of extra time may lead to some really powerful plays. All right, the Gorehulk is in fact coming out of that forward position. So Vexmore all alone at the top of the board may not be consequential. Now, Commanding Stride could be in his deck, but no starting hexes within striking range either. It means that Vexmore might not play a very large role in this game in the first round.
I without having seen Daniela's deck, I can about guarantee there's Commanding Stride, and I can about guarantee there's a Illusory Fighter in there.
Right.
That can be a surprise move to get a hard-hitting Vexmore in range.
James with the purple dice rolling a hammer, so he does win this roll-off. And
we're off.
Behavior on the table makes me think that he has offered Daniela first activation. Interesting choice, but maybe he's hoping to actually take an inconsequential hit and get a couple blood tithe to start the ball rolling and have the last say in the round. Notably, Daniela not able to play any power cards prior to his first activation. He may be hoping to slow down some things there as well. Right.
Looks like he's going to open up with a charge. Lasavir.
Coming around to fight Dromm, perhaps. And no flanked here. Lasavir does not have the innate flanked like he had from the first edition, but he is throwing 3 swords here. And unfortunately, no successes.
The silver lining on that always with the Thricefold is that somebody else will inspire. Lasavir's ability does not require the attack to hit, so we'll see if Daniela chooses to do that 1 damage just for the 1 blood tithe.
It will hand a blood tithe out to James, though, so there are definitely consequences to that choice. It is a reaction ability, so it doesn't need to be done. But a fighter within 2 hexes could take a damage here, so he could opt to place one on either the Gorehulk or Dromm himself. He has chosen to inspire Vastus here, perhaps because she's closer to the action. Vexmore Inspired doesn't gain any moves, so it won't help him get closer to the fight. And again, we do want to avoid move or charge tokens on him. So Vastus perhaps the best choice here.
There's some talk in the chat about the unpainted models. Normally, the World Championships of Warhammer do require all models to be painted. However, because of the quick turnaround time between the new edition and all the new content that got released, they permitted unpainted models so long as you brought a painted warband so that it can be judged for painting scores.
Oh, Gorechosen not the one earning James the score here. Not sure what he did submit. Also notable on the field, he's already used Call of Blood and been able to pull 2 fighters around. He chose both of his own fighters, so Gorehulk now in position to strike without using a charge. We'll see if that's what he takes.
And he also used it to pull Herrex even farther away from Vexmore, so Vexmore's got a long walk to get involved in this game.
I suppose the real question then becomes, do we have Illusory Fighter in the Blazing Assault half of Daniela's deck, and then is it in his hand? Might be the only way that we're going to be able to see Vexmore take any part in this early stage of the game. James looking through his power hand one more time, seeing if there's anything else he wants to do before he takes his first activation.
Given Lastvier's position, I think there's a really good chance that James is going to pick up some early Blood Tithe. He'll have the option of doing the 1-2, cause damage, get Blood Tithe, and Rage.
Yeah, Gorechosen rolling in. Looks like it'll be 2 hammers with flanked, and that's 2 successes out of James. Lastvier is on 1 dodge, and that is
unsuccessful.
Not a success.
Lastvier is going to have the chance to attempt to reduce damage, and I think that looks like it was successful.
A hammer or a crit is how you reduce the damage. So 3 from the Gorehulk, but it's down to 2. With that failure of a roll, he's also inspired Vexmore, who is now a more dangerous fighter, but again, well out of position. And James has scored a surge for that, and crucially picked up a Blood Tithe, which Daniela opted not to give him with Lassivier's Wicked Slice ability. So had to fight to earn a Blood Tithe, but he does now have one and has access to being able to use in his power step that out of sequence charge with the enrage ability. It looks like so far he's
James passing on power step
and not playing any cards either. So Daniela taking interest in what exactly his next move should be. Notably, Vastus has a range 4 attack while inspired, so could reach out and touch one of those front 2 fighters without charging, if that's what she wants to do.
It does look like Daniela was prioritizing, if I'm going to do damage, if I'm going to give Blood Tithe, I'm going to make sure that I'm doing it with a big hit. So it looked like Lasivir was I'm doing 3 or I'm doing none.
Yes.
So I wonder if that points out that he may be unwilling to make that 1 damage attack this early with the ranged Vastus.
All right, Daniela has flipped his activation token. It looks like he's made his decision. All right, so measuring the distance. Zach Lasavir will be making a charge, maybe to get her out of his territory to prevent any strike-based surges that might require a target being in enemy territory.
Still prioritizing Dromm, and this is again showing he's unwilling to do just 2 damage. That's going to go through.
Double crit is an excellent hit.
That'll be, it's going on the Gorehulk. 2 damage there. I think that makes sense. Get the Gorehulk out of there. If the Gorehulk wants to swing again, he's going to have to charge.
There's even with stand fast or evasive, it won't be enough to save Lasavir from a 3 damage hit. So hedging his bets there and making it so that if the Gorehulk does want to get back in the party, he'll have to.
It's also opened up a starting hex if there was some sort of combo like a illusory fighter. Oh, we are seeing Vexmore get inspired. He's about to get involved.
Yes. Feuding was the choice that was taken there. So pick 1 inspired fighter and 1 uninspired and swap that inspiration. So he has given Lasavir an inspiration. notably, which puts him up to 2 dodge. Doing so, making him a little more defensible. Obviously, Daniela worried about losing such a key piece. So that means that Lasavir inspired and Vastus is uninspired. Now, should he fail another roll, he'll have all 3 inspired, but this is a good way to increase the odds that he keeps his fighter alive.
I think he's seeing that there's a good chance that he will fail or lose a fighter soon, so we'll see how that goes. Getting Vexmore inspired that far away.
Vexmore was already inspired. I think he swapped out Vastus inspired to give it to Lasavir for protection purposes. Not sure exactly what it is that James will try and do, but in case he does decide to charge him with a Gorehulk, a 2-hammer attack against a 2-dodge fighter would be a 44% chance of success. So a little under half odds. We'll see if James decides to take that risk because it could have big payouts if he succeeds.
There's a world where Gorehulk lands the 3 damage attack, but Lasavir stands fast and reduces it with evasive, takes that 3 damage attack down to 1.
Considering he does have the flanked bonus as well, it actually will be 59%, so a little better than average. Still, though, there are failure states on that dice roll that.
I'm wondering if Vexmore has a situation where he can illusory fighter commanding stride up into that crowd, get involved, start poking away.
Danielle hasn't chosen to do that yet, but could have anything in his hand.
Good point. That could be another part of the plan is here we go.
Right.
Here comes the Gorehulk.
So 59% chance of success here unless he has any additional cards to play, which he does.
Which he does.
That card is Determined Effort. Currently, there is no underdog, so this will just be +1 dice.
James is on 1 glory. That's 3
hammers,
successes.
2 dodge.
Daniela wants to stand fast and then get evasive as well.
He has only 1 success, so damage will go through. The question is how much. Well, I guess it won't matter. Even with evasive, he would still have taken 2 and be slain. So, Lasavir out of action. That's 2 bounty for James. Advastus is re-inspired now, which will put her on 2 dodge as well in the event that James is able to put out another attack against her. But Lasavir going down early without ever having used Wicked Slice could end up being quite impactful in this game. James already at 5 blood tithes, so more than halfway to his inspiration. And only 1 fighter with 2 wounds on them means that he's in a pretty good position right now. Spending a glory to place an upgrade on the Gorehulk.
Blade Catcher is out.
I think that was Illusory Fighter, so that was Commanding Stride. So Vexmore will still probably have to charge to get involved, but already inspired means it will be 2 hammers for 2 damage. Still not a bad profile.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, if he's going to attack Gorehulk anyway, Grievous won't do anything now that Blade Catcher's out.
There's not a lot of benefit. He does lose out on the plus dice.
That's true. Wizwang letting us know some insider information that looks like James, if this had still been first edition, would have been bringing Lady Hero's Mournflight with Malevolent Masks. That is a Rivals deck that was near and dear to, I think, both of our hearts in first edition.
Spent a lot of time with masks. Interesting choice to bring to a Grand Clash, though Lady Heroes is probably best positioned to leverage it. All right, Vexmore has taken that charge. Only option for him is Herax.
He could have gone deeper, but it would have
allowed flanked and lowering his probability significantly.
We got 1 dice out of the tray.
So we have 1 failure and
looks like the
1 success there. So Herax on 1 shield. Think if there's any cards that are going to be played.
Scoring Branching Fate.
Because he is the underdog, he only needed 2 dice, and Herax has failed his roll. So that'll be 2 damage on Herax. Another Blood Tithe for James, but a Branching Fate score to give Daniela 1 glory and put him on the board.
Daniela having both his fighters charged out, which is a situation that Reckless Fury often is looking to achieve. Now he has 2 fighters with range 2 or higher attacks, and they can continue to hit at the cluster of Gorechosen fighters there.
A moderately safe position right now.
Blood Tithe up to 6.
For the purpose of Reckless Fury, he does have enough bounty with charge tokens in enemy territory to score an end phase card, should they both survive.
Yep. James getting ready to take his 3rd activation. I think with this very aggressive pairing Daniela has taken, there aren't any extra defense dice that I can think of that would help Vexmore out. We know that both players have access to healing potion. I'd expect to see it on both.
Yeah, really, the only defensive things that are available is Blade Catcher and I suppose Utter Ignorance, if we want to count that as defense.
We've already seen Blade Catcher come out for the Gorechosen. I expect it somewhere in Daniela's deck as well.
There is the potential either player is taking Tough from the Blazing Assault deck, where no more than 3 damage can be inflicted on this fighter in the same turn. Though none of these fighters is capable of reaching more than 3 damage without Grievous. So it's possible that it won't come into play. Really useful in the Headsman's matchup, and not so much in other situations. It is 3 damage in the same turn, however, so it could prevent things like Lassiter's Wicked Slice from adding 1, and then another follow-up power card. So it's not just the activation, as you might have expected. It's the entirety of the turn, which includes the power step. That said, I don't know that either player has taken Tough. I've yet to see anyone across this tournament use it to effect, but it is a thing that could come in if either player is looking for more survivability and defense.
One trick we could see, so the Gorehulk is protected with that Blade Catcher from any Grievous tricks. But one trick we could potentially see down the line, maybe in the next round once there are no charge, or if there's any charge token removal shenanigans from Reckless Fury, is using Vile Temptation to remove that Blade Catcher. Looks like 1 success from Herrick's and 2 successes for last
so that
year.
Inspiration coming in pretty big there. He does have a charge token in enemy territory, has made an attack in enemy territory, so it's possible that it will get him some scoring conditions later. But James passing on power.
James looking a little disappointed with that result, but 3 swords into 2 dodge
is the highest success
a little
rate.
Challenging.
3 swords into 2 dodge, a 43% chance of success typically, so a bit of a coin flip, but he's already got the advantage, and you might try and press it. So,
these statistics brought to you by Beard Arm.
Yes. David Lancaster found me at lunch the other day and handed me the stat sheet, which has been actually pretty useful because the math that many of us from first edition are used to has changed with the new crit rules, and so some people less familiar with what is and is not an advisable attack. So trying to read that out when we have that information in advance to give you odds of what you might expect to see.
For those who've been with us for most of the weekend, we know that when something exciting happens in the French games, the French players' teams, we sometimes get a big crowd here. I decided to get ahead of it. I went over to ask the French Wargaming stream if there was anyone vying for them in the 40K or AOS world, and they said they have somebody vying for it in AOS. They're out of 40K, so we'll see if there's a big flood again at some point today.
We'll be able to give you the tip, or you might be able to hear it on our microphones. They do get some raucous celebrations when things go well for them. And Yella considering his options pretty carefully here. I think at this early in the game, one big play on either side could really push things in their favor. And as both players
power steps have been passed, it looks like Daniela is going to go with a Bastus attack. Could go for the kill on Herrick's.
He has 2 damage at range 2, so one success there and not a success there. So
all right,
like
Daniela pick up a kill.
We'll
see if that scores anything.
Only 1 blood tithe away from inspiration after that.
And we still have 1 more activation for the Gorechosen.
And notably, he has not used the Enrage ability. So should he find a way to inspire after dealing damage, he will have the access to Enrage without losing anything. Utter Ignorance coming out on the board, being placed on Vexmore, who so far hasn't even been targeted, but just 1 more way to keep the big man on the board for another round or 2.
I think we have to assume that Daniela understands that Vexmore for him is a closeout game plan. He's a pile of health. He's a big damage dealer. And if he can continue to find pushes and moves to move around, he'll have it.
James taking the hint and getting Dromm out of danger. Bastus currently with full health, but Dromm capable of doing 2 damage here.
1 success.
She'll have 2 dodge. And that is 1 success. So good roll for Daniela. And the story of Italian defense continues.
We did have somebody in the stream say that people must have been working to defend themselves against Oh, here we go. I think we're
James
seeing
using Enrage. Would have liked to have been inspired prior, but knowing he's got to leverage it now before it costs too much more blood tithe. He is taking
Twist the knife.
So should this hit, and he is flanked, Lasavir will die without being able to use evasive.
We got a crit.
So Daniela will
looking
want
for
crit.
even one dodge,
And
which does
no
not get.
dodges there, but he does have access to evasive. So with a hammer or crit here,
Nope.
unfortunate for him. Down to his last fighter already.
That'll put the score to 5-2, and it should bring the blood tithe count up to.
So he should be
9.
seeing some inspiration here.
10, because of the. Well, it's all the Vexmore show now.
Yep.
See what he can do.
He does have utter ignorance, so we'll get to see him stick around for a bit longer, but notably out of position here. We'll see if Daniela takes a move action or if he has any other power cards.
Well, Daniela was the first to activate, so I think we're into the end.
That is
we got 2 Reckless Fury scores.
One for 3 glory and another for 2. I'll take a look at what those are. I believe
Let's see what that 3 glory one is. I don't know if we've seen it yet. Oh, I think it's everybody charge. It's the charge tokens are in everybody.
Unrelenting Massacre is the name of the card. Score this in an end phase if all fighters have charge tokens. So with 2 3-model warbands, both interested in making those charges, he does score Unrelenting Massacre, which is a big swing for him. So despite the fact that board state looking a little worse, the game is actually currently tied at 6. We'll see what James has in his end phase to pull ahead.
Critical Focus channel in the comment section. If this just wasn't enough games for you, that's an excellent channel to get some battle reports and general analysis of releases. They create some nice, concise ones. I find I can watch an entire battle report while doing the dishes at home.
Yeah, excellent players there. I believe they're out of Sweden. And is it Sweden? I'm not sure.
I'm going to offend somebody because it seems like it's Scandinavian in some way.
All right, so now Dromm also with utter ignorance, unwounded, so an interesting choice, but wanted to make sure he stays on the board.
Brace getting shown, presumably discarded.
Yeah, it is the remove a charge token card or the place a charge token on a fighter card. I'm not sure which, but either way, it's no longer part of it.
So I'm seeing utter ignorance, sharpen points, and I'm not tracking what that middle upgrade is for Daniela as Vexmore. Some folks will be wondering why there's some black and white cards here. Because things were so close to the release of these. We got crit, so James winning the roll-off. I'm actually not sure if he wants to take it or not. He is so far away. Whoever activates first is going to have to charge. And looking at body language, I think he passed it to Daniela again. I think that's a great choice here. They're both players having about 3 glory still to spend, and they've just drawn a new hand, so they may be looking for some more resources before they really commit themselves. I think that's part of the idea here. Daniela does have the 1 extra power card as a reminder in 2nd edition. If you lose that roll-off for priority, well, whoever chooses to go first, it doesn't matter. It's whoever lost that roll-off is picking up the card. I'd be pretty nervous to send Vexmore in. He really doesn't want it. He would rather have somebody come to him.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm assuming he was hoping to win that roll-off so that he could stand there with no move or charge tokens and leverage that indolent ability. But James too canny for that and saying, no, you go ahead and walk over to me. We'll fight down on the bottom here.
Daniela never getting to use Eldritch Enmity in this matchup now that he has both his other
2 fighters away from one another. Now that he only has 1, there's no way to play that because who's he pushing away from? So while there is still a mark on his war scroll there, we can't expect to see that used since there's no way for him to bring fighters back. It won't be leveraged in this game.
we can expect to see Vile Temptations. I think there's a lot of strong plays available to him here, whether it is making sure the Gore Hulk goes down with a grievous shot from getting rid of Blade Catcher, or if he gets a line on Herrick's. Sorry, not Herrick's. That guy's dead already. If he gets a line on Dromm, making sure that Dromm goes down without the help of utter ignorance.
Might be able to take that away. Now, Dromm not having Blade Catcher means that he is vulnerable to the Grievous, should Vexmore find a way to get into the fight without move or charge tokens, or perhaps charging and then removing a charge token with Reckless Fury.
So I'm seeing James is taking an action now. Looks like he's putting out. Oh, we were having some focus actions. We got some cagey play here, boys.
Well, again, it's very important for Daniela to not have those tokens. And so he either needs a way to remove them, or he has to just accept the fact that he's going to be fighting without Indolent.
Looks like headlong charge. I think that's a
+2 move when charging.
That's a freebie.
Yes, for 0 glory. Pretty potent card for 0 glory, especially if you were planning on making a charge anyway. Vexmore 3 move normally now could reach 5 move with 2 range if needing to make a charge, which means that effectively James won't be able to hide either of his fighters.
Back to Daniela for his second activation of round 2. I keep saying activation. I don't think they're even called that anymore. Action step
now, yes.
Vexmore, wow, right into the middle of him.
And giving himself flanked as well. Taking determined effort. There is no underdog at this point, so just +1 dice. So giving up on Indolent, but gaining the plus dice anyway. It'll be 3 hammers.
Going into Dromm. Interesting choice.
Well, remember, he does still have the ability to take Utter Ignorance away. So if he can put 2 damage on Dromm here, and then perhaps remove that charge token to be able to add Grievous later, he could put 3 damage, take Utter Ignorance away, and Dromm would then be forced to use Final Fury to stay alive.
I wonder if this is an idea if I put pressure on both fighters and they're both potentially worried about dying. If he focuses down one a little too much, then the other one can operate unrestricted, looking to put some pressure on James's decision making.
All right, Vexmore throwing his dice
he's changing to the Gore Hulk.
So 1 crit.
I'm not sure why there's only 2 dice there. I thought he had determined effort going.
Oh, Gore Hulk taking the damage anyway.
I wonder if there's hidden aid. Hidden aid is the one we couldn't see. So that was a crit success.
Make it so that he actually did have 2 successes there. No even need to roll that 3rd dice. So determined effort not really being useful here. And then placing another upgrade.
That looks like maybe
this one, Fury of Akshi. Fighters adjacent to this fighter cannot use core abilities other than the charge ability. So that explains why he got himself right in the middle there. Both fighters are adjacent. And now
seeing accurate come out.
James can charge with both fighters, but after that, the only activations they can take are charges. So at best, Vexmore will get punched back twice. And Rage has already been used, so James will have to find a way to remove charge tokens if he wants to get extra.
Blade Catcher coming down on Vexmore now.
Vexmore looking like a...
Vexmore using the entirety of the Thricefold Discord's glory account, running up a build. Oh, that's not true. He's got 7 glory. I think there must have been a surge we missed on that charge there.
Right. James making an attack back.
That's going to hit.
It's critical and 2 successes. I don't believe Vexmore can do anything about that. And a reroll.
There was a reroll. I don't...
Possibly trying to score Branching Fate.
Those are going to be some difficult dice to read.
So intelligently, James charging with Dromm as he's required to, but doing so from a distance so that he's not affected by Fury of Akshi anymore.
James playing Reckless Attitudes. I managed to get a glimpse at that, which says any actions taken in the next round must be a charge. Vexmore, who has charged,
cannot charge again.
Yeah.
Unless he has some way to get that charge token off, or a card that says you may behave as though you didn't have any charge tokens for the next action. So we'll see if Daniela has a counter available for that. He did take a focus action earlier.
There's the healing potion.
Cards.
One heal right away. And he is not the underdog.
Oh, so no dice roll to see if there's a second. Vexmore unable to charge unless Daniela has a power card, which he has not yet played. So it's possible that he'll be taking another focus action here.
I do kind of feel like I was expecting he might have one in here, although some of his charge token manipulation requires another fighter to be alive.
And you can't hand it off to someone if you don't have someone to hand it off to. So taking the focus action, drawing another card. If that gives him the tools he needs later in this round. He does have a card to play now.
Getting a guard token down.
Right. A modest boost to his defense. Vexmore being on one shield while inspired now, also counting dodges. Like a surge has been scored for James.
James is asking if it's okay if he scores it. Danielle is saying go for it. Oh. Yep, we're at 8 for James. James is in decent position with 2 heavy hitters on either side of Vexmore. However, I think he's aware that one bad roll is going to give Daniela a way back in, forward position-wise.
So question we'll have to ask is, does the Gorehulk choose to charge away the same way the Dromm did, and then be able to continue to make attacks? He does have range 2 while inspired, so he does not need to stay right there, but he would be giving up the flanked bonus for any future attacks that Dromm decides to make.
And if he does charge, he's absolutely going to want to charge away so that he can continue to make attacks. And when he leaves adjacent, I think a real powerful play here might be Gorehulk, or I'm talking from the Thricefold. We see Gorehulk charge, make that range 2 attack, and then Daniele follow up with a sidestep or some other push to get in tight again. It says, you're done.
You're not doing anything, and yeah, if Gorehulk doesn't charge away into the right position, then we may find that Dromm is also out of range.
Captain, you are pointing out that Final Frenzy is still on the board, so absolutely. We've seen some absolutely massive Final Frenzy rolls already on the stream. It's almost certain that if Vexmore manages to drop Gorehulk, that he will come back with that many dice being rolled for Final Frenzy.
That said, Daniela has defeated several Gorechosen before
get
to this point, so he's of course acutely aware of that and likely has a plan to deal with it. So we'll find out what that is later in this match, perhaps.
Here comes that
charging
charge.
away, and yes, again, intelligently quite close to Dromm, so that even if that sidestep or some other effect comes into play, Dromm should be able to swing back.
I will say yes, but now a single sidestep from Vexmore will
put him in range
totally
of both
shut
fighters.
down both of them.
That's true.
We got one success and nothing here again.
That is one success because he is on guard and cannot be driven back. So notably, Vexmore will be able to take another swing. Gorehulk with the sidestep to get out.
That's great positioning. Now, if there's that push that we were talking about, Vexmore can only block the one, and then Gorehulk will be able to retaliate.
Continue to punch with flanked for the rest of the round.
Yeah. We could see that Vexmore is just content to stab away at Dromm for a little bit.
And I imagine that's his best move here. Though we'll see what power cards he has.
Drawn in. No, he's going to keep pursuing that Gorehulk.
So he moves himself over there. Now in range of both fighters. Gorehulk
and a sidestep immediately. James had the plan for that.
Not wanting to take any more damage on the Gorehulk, knowing that he is near death. Not wanting to waste his Final Frenzy if he doesn't need to. Very canny play out of James. Yeah. A lot of people might look at the Gorechosen with the recent embargo drop and saying, let me take a look at these cards and War Scrolls and saying, well, these guys just seem like a dice party, but it's not all about throwing dice. There is much more to this game. James demonstrating that with some keen acuity here. Some wounds coming out on Dromm. 3 away from death unless one of those cards is Great Fortitude. I cannot see the second upgrade that Dromm is holding.
I think it's accurate.
Okay, I believe you're right.
Yeah.
Making him a little more reliable on the attack. Hard play, not sure which one it is.
That could have been Wings of War. Oh, is this another? This is another focus.
Interesting he's choosing not to take an attack against Vexmore with Dromm. Oh, because
Can't
he's
do
only
it.
allowed to make charge actions.
Yeah.
That's true. Both players kind of shutting each other out here. Lots of control play.
Yep. Couldn't see that one quick enough.
They're
we're
into
on
the
to
scoring
end phase. We're just going to have to see what Daniele puts out. It's going a little too quick for us to keep up there.
So James now at 11 glory. Discarding some cards.
It's interesting. We saw a very long way to deploy. James thought about it really carefully. But you can tell when things are happening this is what I planned for. That sidestep and the spot that he sidestepped to was boom, right away.
Yes,
like
he
he
knew
knew exactly
immediately.
what he wanted.
Daniela has these options, and I know exactly how I'm going to counter each one.
Yep.
There was no hesitation at that point. So, yes, in the initial phase, a lot of consideration, but it seems like he's banked away those options for himself so that when he needs them, he doesn't have to think too hard.
Everything to play for here. We've got just a difference of 3 glory, and there's a lot of bounty on the board.
Definitely is. Currently, 6 bounties still on the board for the Gorechosen and 3 more for the Thricefold. So either player could take those if they get some slain fighters, as well as whatever's left in their objective deck. Furious actually still is on, meaning that if Dromm wants to activate, he must charge. We'll see if he tries to end not adjacent again.
Oh. We're getting some Vile Temptation coming out.
Right, so Dromm no longer with Utter Ignorance. And as Vexmore has no charge tokens, it means that he does have +1 dice, and he does have Grievous. The upgrade given...
Great strength, I think.
Great strength?
Yeah.
Okay.
But when you're immune to rune marks, who cares?
Yeah,
that,
what 2 crits as well for Vexmore. So that's going to make it a 3 damage attack, and there will be no Utter Ignorance.
Critical effort being scored.
We'll see if Dromm is able to survive with Final Frenzy if he chooses to use it here. You have to imagine that he will.
Yeah.
Counting how many blood tithe he has, thinking about whether he's going to do it. Explaining the ability to Daniela. So we're looking for criticals. So Dromm slain with 0 wounds. So any crits will bring him back to life. And there's 1. So Dromm does survive. We'll see how much more he heals. None there. And none there. So Dromm lives but remains vulnerable on 1 wound. So any damage from any source will take him out. And with Utter Ignorance removed and Final Frenzy done.
And Vexmore spotting a healthy profile of only 1 damage on him so far.
And bearing Utter Ignorance himself. So Daniele definitely not out of things yet. Dromm, of course, only able to charge if he activates with Fury of Action, so will only be able to get 2 hexes away at best. And Vexmore still able to reach him without any other push cards.
Amazing. I didn't even think about that. He'll hopefully be looking for a drive back to protect himself.
Yeah, that may be Dromm's only chance to survive here. Charge 2 away, hit Vexmore, and push him out of distance.
We don't often see this situation, but both remaining Gorechosen, it's only 1 attack to kill either one at this point. We're used to seeing, hey, Utter Ignorance is on the board, Final Frenzy is still available. A big hit from Vexmore will kill either one, and right now they don't have the damage to one-shot him back.
And even if they did, he does still have Utter Ignorance of his own. So depending on positioning here, it might actually be Vexmore's game to take. Now, James with the lead, but potentially 3 to 6 bounty coming Daniela's way could swing things around the other side and have the Italian take the lead in the late stage of the game.
Daniela staying on target.
Notably, choosing to give great strength to Dromm means that it's a 2 glory upgrade. And so it caused no available glory freed up for James. Now, it looks like he has plenty left to spend. But, tactical choice there. out of Daniela, who does not need great strength at this point.
We got Duelist. Great, he found a
that
way
will
out.
do it. So you charge 2 away, and if you get the drive back, you're fine. And if you don't, well, you can push yourself to safety regardless. So Dromm should be able to get out of danger after this charge. So we'll see if Daniela has any ability to push around himself and chase after.
For the discussion in the chat, that is correct. There's already been the swap. It's not available again.
Oh, very interesting. The Dromm is choosing to charge adjacent. Now he'll still be able to push away to safety, and he's within 1 of that feature token, so perhaps he wants to land there with Duelist for a card.
That's a whiff.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. Well, he is accurate. I think we have 1 reroll.
He does have accurate. There's a crit. So 1 defense for Vexmore.
Comes up shield.
There, but it is 1, and crits don't beat necessarily a single success anymore. So it is a tie.
There's a
tie. You can drive Vexmore back, and you can sidestep yourself to safety, but no damage will be done.
Choosing not to. You know what this tells me? Well, he hasn't played it yet. I was wondering if we're going to see Fury Bakshi from the other side.
Oh, that would be interesting.
So I was expecting to see a drive back and then a Duelist speed to step away.
Why would he play Duelist and then not use the push? Unclear. Maybe he has something up his sleeve for later. Maybe he's choosing to stick around to provide flanked to the Gorechosen next attack.
I can't imagine that Dromm is likely to survive another attack here. He's going to take a 3 hammer, 3 damage. Maybe there's something we're missing.
Both players looking pretty hard at the board right now. All right, so he is choosing to drive back, and he is using his Duelist to chase Vexmore. Not what I expected to see. Scoring Branching Fate, though. 1 more for James. All right, so it'll be Daniela's power step if James has passed, which it appears he has.
Captain Schmoogo saying, unlike James to not have a plan, turns out he did. I think he's got to have a strong sense of the position that he wants to have Vexmore in.
Yeah, I don't think you make it to the semifinals at the World Championships of Warhammer without having a plan. There it is. Fury of Bakshi has been placed on Dromm. So now, if Vexmore wants to activate, he must charge. That will not only mean that he has to charge to a position away from Dromm, who again has Duelist, so could chase if he attacks a second time. But it means that Dromm has made it so that Indolent is going to be taken off the table. For Vexmore will need a charge token and will not have +1 dice and will not have +1 damage.
There's a question in the chat about what the other side of the semifinal are, and it is Matteo, who we saw on stream here yesterday from Italy with Gorechosen, playing against Maxim from Canada, also with Gorechosen.
Notably, Matteo using the Countdown to Cataclysm pairing that I don't believe any other of the Dromms are using. So
not that we've seen, at least.
Not the purest mirror match available, but one of those Dromms will be advancing to the finals, and one of these 2 players will meet them there.
Daniela working through his cards, seeing if he's got a good plan here. You know, the player that I am, I'd be like, well, I guess I'm out of options. I guess I'm charging. But he's got to consider all kinds of possibilities. You know, if he takes his charge.
I think we might see a focus action here instead of a charge.
Oh, that's interesting.
Depends on what's left in his deck. So Daniela flipping his activation and now talking through his options.
Doesn't really have to worry about giving Blood Tithe one way or the other at this point, because
asking to take a look at the discard pile here from James, seeing what cards he's played, what powers he might have available to him.
I love this. We've seen so many times looking through the objective deck, like counting scores, all this, but the power card thing, Daniela thinks he knows what's in this deck, and I can understand why, because it's a pairing
playing the same pairing.
Yeah.
So he's thinking, if James has a certain card I'm worried about, I don't want to do this action that I'm thinking about. So let's see if he's already discarded it or whether there's a chance it's in his hand.
We've already seen Commanding Stride, so that's not available.
One of the advantages of the Nemesis format is that you do have a limited deck building pool, so you have a little better chance of guessing what your opponent may have taken. So a better chance for a player to do things like looking through the discard pile to deduce what their opponent might be holding.
I think what Daniela has to be thinking about here is that if I make this charge action, where am I going to go? There's no spot I can go that's more than 2 away from Dromm.
He'll have to either get the Slay or the drive back, because if Dromm attacks and then uses his Duelist push, ends up right next to Vexmore again.
Yeah.
Then Vexmore cannot charge and can only charge,
Yeah.
and then that'll be the pretty limiting set of options there for Daniela. So he's got to be thinking very carefully, how do I make this happen? Guarantee a success. If he hits either fighter, they're slain. Okay, so if this doesn't work out for him, in a lot of trouble. So only 2 hammers here, though there will be a reroll from Accurate.
And he's sporting Cleave.
Yes, so that'll increase the reliability of this attack. We'll see if James has anything to counter that. Daniela taking a look through his cards one more time, making sure this is the right play.
It absolutely has to be Dromm as a target then, because he can't possibly go after the Gorehulk.
Yeah, if he
leave
attacks the
himself next to
Gorehulk,
the Fury of Action,
then we'll be stuck here for the rest of the game.
Oh,
charging instead
choosing to go
there,
the other
saying,
direction.
Gorehulk, you've got to come over to me if you want to deal with this. So 2 dice with a reroll.
Big roll, big roll.
Looking for hammers. 2
Two.
hammers, and he won't take the reroll because even on 1 crit, I don't believe the Dromm can survive. Unless Dromm has an additional defense die, which so far, no. So James realizing there's no hope, deciding not to roll. He is slain. 2 surges are scored and 3 bounty coming out for Dromm going down. So big swing there for Daniela, but most notably, Dromm is not able to close the distance and lock him down to Fury of Action again. He needed that attack to go through, and it looks like that gamble paid off. So no utter ignorance, and
here's the other thing. So the Gorehulk can make this charge, but he doesn't have enough damage to get the kill. And if he does it, Vexmore's got Fury of Action
and utter ignorance.
And
so
utter ignorance.
If I'm James, I'm looking really hard at my objective cards and wondering if I want to take a focus action here.
Yeah,
if there's any end phases I can draw into that I'll score, because he'll get 1 shot at Vexmore realistically, and he's not even going to kill him. So not a lot of utility in making that unless he has attack-based surges he's hoping to score.
Incredible discipline. So that move, I think that was a calculation. If I go to this side, I think that felt like, do I need to go in after Gorehulk, right? Like, I'm going to make this charge. Do I... looks like a focus from James. And another surge scored for Daniele.
James showing a power card there. Drawing up his new one. Wonder what it is that James is digging for in his deck, hoping to find. Playing another upgrade on the Gorehulk. Can't see which one it is.
Unfortunately for us, some of these objectives earlier got scored so quickly that we are not certain what's out there. Now, a late charge from the Gorehulk could set up Arena Mortis. There's a lot of bounty out there. I don't know if James is including the, what was it, the 3 Glory?
Says all fighters have charge tokens. It's possible.
He may be digging for that. I think that objective was an inspired pick from Daniele and really kind of let him keep pace.
Playing a healing potion here. And as the underdog, he'll have the chance to roll for an additional. Didn't see the dice roll, but Gorehulk only removing 1 wound there, so must not have been a successful result. That will, however, keep the Gorehulk alive for another attack should Daniela have another way to put it out. And with Blade Catcher, no opportunity for Grievous, even if he finds a way to access it. So Gorehulk now out of 1-shot range as well. So it's unlikely that either fighter will be slain by the end of this game. So it really comes down to who has what objectives in their hand and how can they find a way to score or deny their opponent their scores. Because this game is only separated by 3 glory now, and it's either player's game still. Daniela counting some spaces, wondering what Gorehulk could do, where he could go, what cards he needs to work towards. look on James' face tells me that he thinks he still has an angle. It's not out of it yet. I don't know what it is that he's got, but James has not given up to defeat just yet.
James asking how many cards in hand. So he is working a.
James now asking to see the scored objectives. Both players know they need to do exactly the right thing. Knowing what cards are available to be scored, which cards have already been scored, is going to allow them to make that best decision. Coming into this third end phase, it's important early in this game for the set best of 3 match. The more information you can glean about your opponent's deck now, the better advantage you have going into game 2 and potentially 3. So even if this game is out of reach for James, still taking the wise choice to look through as much information as he has available to give himself the best chances to force a game 3 and possibly take this set.
Mark Maxey, a lot of folks have been saying that the game is still new, and so aggro decks are easier to lean towards as being more straightforward. While that is true, I think we're seeing Reckless Fury being used for a lot of control play here. Daniela going with a guard. He must think that the Gorehulk has a way to get in for the kill, or is worried that there might be some way to engineer it.
I think, well, it's fair to say that, yes, take a set of good stat blocks and just roll hot dice and you'll win the day. That may be true, but the Gorechosen players that we've seen advance to this top bracket have taken it to a much deeper level and are doing a lot of positional play and a lot of good counterplay, control play. And so, yes, it may be straightforward to always charge, but when and where and how you do that does differentiate skill expression. And these players definitely doing much more than brain dead dice rolling.
Yeah. Black Fox noticing the unpainted miniatures. We've mentioned it here and there throughout the day's streaming, but given the quick turnaround between the new edition and most of this content was released under NDA and embargo so that players could practice. They wanted players the chance to practice, and most folks would have only had a few weeks to figure out what they want and paint. It's a little too close for a turnaround, so players were asked to bring a warband that they had painted, and it did not have to be the one that they were actually going to play with. I will say, by my very, very rough estimate, maybe 85 to 90% of the players are sporting painted warbands on the table.
I've seen this Dromm and I believe one other unpainted. There's one unpainted Thricefold, and I've seen one unpainted Emberwatch, which makes sense, seeing as they only just were released. You couldn't have painted them very well. That said, Andy did have gorgeously painted ones himself, but most of these players bringing painted models, even though it was not a requirement, and so interesting to see that despite the short turnaround time, many of these players not able to have known until quite recently what they were going to bring to Worlds, that they still managed to get paint on them. That said, it is not a requirement. There's no knock against James for not having them painted, and he did submit a painted warband for the paint score in a separate category, so still meeting all of his obligations. And as we saw in the chat earlier, James is notoriously known as a very strong gamer who is not as interested in painting, and we celebrate all aspects of the hobby here in Warhammer. Whichever one tickles your fancy, you should pursue.
I think both players chatting there, smiling. Vexmore is saying, I need to.
Looks like now we do know that there is a single card that cares about feature tokens in the possible pairing. So maybe what he was working towards there. And taking himself just one step out of the Gorechosen's reach in case there is something that James wants to do. Perhaps a final charge.
So that's treasure token 1. It is the least valuable if it comes down to tiebreakers.
Now, one thing that I'm thinking about is it's possible that Daniela also has Arena Mortis. And the Gorechosen might have it as well, but if he doesn't have it in hand or didn't even take it in his deck, in the previous movement, there was an opportunity for the Gorehulk to charge into neutral territory, and it would not score that. Now that he's pushed further away, he must reach enemy territory to hit him. guaranteeing an Arena Mortis score if he does have it in hand. Headlong charge coming out, so the Gorehulk will have the capacity to move much further during a charge. So maybe that extra distance wasn't necessary.
Now, some of the glory piles are a little difficult to see for us. Just as they get so large, they start to creep off stream. We've been keeping up correctly, though, and we are correctly showing 15 for Daniele, 12 for James.
James has played an upgrade that I believe to be headlong charge on the Gorehulk, so he could strike pretty deep into territory, scoring Arena Mortis for either player. And seeing as Daniela has already scored the 3 glory for everyone has a charge token, should James have taken that card as well, he may have a 3 glory end phase coming his way. Both players checking the scored objectives.
James,
see whether or not they can close the gap, and if James has anything he needs to do here to ensure that he at least gets it to a tiebreaker, if not beyond that.
It's possible that James has some surges for scoring there. He's got to figure out, or surges for making an attack. He's got to figure out if I go in, if I throw an attack, I could score this surge. Maybe if he's still got something along those lines, maybe setting up for Arena Mortis. However, a charge, unless he's got some follow-up push, is going to leave him with no option to be on a tie-breaking treasure token.
Yes.
And I think that's what Daniele is doing there, saying, I know I'm taking the least valuable treasure token, but I'm going to take the one that forces you, except for one spot there. There's one spot that could be attacked from neutral territory. I'm going to force you to come to me. I will have the tiebreaker. You cannot kill me. I think both fighters sporting great fortitude at this point. Brian, come over and give me an update on that.
Both players kind of nervously looking at each other, saying, "Who's going to be the first to blink?" I don't know exactly what you have. You don't know exactly what I have, and I think they both know either player can still win this.
Yeah,
and it's all dependent on which choice James makes here.
Daniela taking a swig of water. James taking a swig of Coke. Notably, neither player taking a swig of Baja Blast.
I do have one here if they need it.
Capsel, this is the only platform we're streaming it on. For those who don't know, we were asked fairly late to do this. Is first time What the Hex has really done anything remotely like this. We casually streamed 1 or 2 things here and there. This is, I'm not exaggerating, an order of magnitude beyond anything we've attempted to do. And that means there were real limits on what we could do in the time available and within our budget to make it happen. So in an ideal world, we're putting this out. People have the chance to see it in more than one spot, but this is what we can do. So hopefully GW, whether it's us or someone else, can make this happen on a bigger scale next year.
It would be nice to have a second commentator's table, maybe able to stream 2 or 3 games at a time.
Absolutely.
But at this point, no, it's just the one. It's just us. But if this is successful and grows, and we're able to get this game, up to its greatest heights, who knows what we'll see at the World Championships in subsequent years. Both players being incredibly thorough about what cards have been scored and wondering what cards might still be out on the other player's hand. With 4-hour rounds, they do have the luxury of time here. So, and again, the least amount of publicly available information in this first round, so the most time thinking needs to be done because you don't have that information about what cards you have not seen yet.
Yeah.
And then this behavior out of the both of them means I think they know that there is a world where either player wins.
John Grant, I agree. Agents as Sigmar in these chairs would be amazing. I would watch the heck out of that. Those guys are great. Robin and Pete. They were part of my formative Underworlds experience when I just could not get enough Underworlds. There was only a handful of war bands out there, and as soon as they started making videos, I was all in.
Great pair of guys. And they do play their own games, and so would certainly be able to commentate on them. And we know that they're good at making video content, so it could be exciting to have them hop across the pond next year.
As far as the location of the World Championships, it's worth noting, although this is in the U.S. And at Atlanta, that decision on to be at Atlanta is because it's the single busiest international airport in the world. It acted as a easiest hub to get players to. And then there are more than 50 countries represented in the hall here across all the game systems. So it's been pretty incredible to see.
Considering the capacity for someone from a far-flung country to get to Atlanta is a little easier, they decided to hold it here.
Here it is.
I had the same thought at the first part, saying, how come we're playing a British game and not in Britain? But the Atlanta airport apparently is the reasoning for that argument. All right. My understanding, 2 hammers with 1 reroll, as best as I can understand.
Wondering what he's looking for with this result. If he hasn't scored Branching Fate yet, he could score it on just a 2 dice roll.
I believe he has scored it already. Okay. He had a 3 dice attack with a reroll, got a support, a flank, and a crit last time.
James asking if Daniele is ready for this roll. Oh,
multiple dice leaving the tray. So we got one flank was a failure, 1 hammer there. So only 1 success on this roll. Vex more on guard with 1 defense die. We have some official camera photography coming here with an incredible stabilizing device. Live panning shots of these players in a pivotal semifinals game.
It's possible James
rolled some more dice. I'm not sure why or what I saw. Facial expression on James suggesting that it wasn't the result he was looking for.
It's possible. There is a surge for having only successes in your roll. That's going to be a tough pill to ask, or a tough pill to swallow. But it was not outside the realms of possibility with a reroll.
Positionally, worth noting that the Gorehulk has gotten himself onto that second treasure token, so he would win on a tiebreaker with a higher objective value.
Red Aftermath from Daniele.
But a couple of scores coming in for, and that I think will seal it. A Red Aftermath really unstoppable from James at this point. So Daniele will take the win in game 1. But there is still 1 more to play and potentially a third. As we said, it comes down to that last activation. Either player did have a path to victory there. James just not getting the dice he needed, unfortunately. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him take the second game and force a third, because that was quite tight throughout, and he did have some early success. If he's able to get that again and have just 1 or 2 dice rolls go his way, things could have looked very differently this game.
What a great way to start the semifinals. I think we see why Daniele managed to carve his way through so many Gorechosen to get here.
Being able to keep the Blood Tithe count low, wasn't able to delay Inspiration for too long, but did mean that he limited the number of dice able to be rolled for Final Frenzy, and having taken Utter Ignorance off the board meant that realistically he was able to reduce the effective wounds pool of his opponent much better than many other have into Gorechosen. And so that, I think, a key part to his victory in this game, as well as the fact that he's defeated, I believe, 4 Gorechosen matchups prior to this. So quite a potent counter. For those watching at home worried, what's my local Gorechosen player going to do to me? Maybe you start taking a look at the Thrice Full Discord, because it seems like they do have some good counterplay into this matchup.
I think it was just incredibly disciplined play from him. We talked about keeping the Blood Tithe low, but he wasn't scared to make attacks. We saw him choose not to use Lassevir's ability to splash out 1 damage. He said, that's not worth it to me. 1 damage for 1 Blood Tithe, I'm not doing that. He chose not to make these range 3 or 4 attacks from Vastus. Again, 1 damage is not worth the 1 Blood Tithe, but I am going to go in, and I am not scared to do a 2 damage attack and lay that in there.
Yeah, we've seen some players able to handle the Gorechosen by saying, I refuse to engage. You'll have to do the Blood Tithe game yourself. Daniele not taking that approach, and he really was working towards being able to table his opponent. So pretty aggressive play, saying, I am going to try and take out all 3 of your fighters.
Yeah.
And also notably, willing to take out Herax first.
Yeah.
We have seen very few other people willing to do. He's only worth 1 bounty, and he's going to give up at least 2 Blood Tithe in the process.
Yep. Yeah.
Daniele willing to take that risk, and it did pay off for him today.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, Vile Transference. I think this must have been part of this as a counter pick. He thought Gorechosen were going to be real powerful. Vile Transference being a great tool for making sure those big fighters, we're going to have a lot of important upgrades, lose access to some of the ones that they're most
Take
most
the right
interested
one
in
off at
keeping.
the right time. As long as you have an upgrade in your hand of equal or lesser value, you can switch it out. And we saw a couple of focus actions from him, perhaps digging for an upgrade that would meet that condition.
Yeah.
But at the right time, he was able to swap things out and effectively say, you're not going to get to keep your most important upgrade right when I need it to be gone. And saving that for the right time, I think, is going to differentiate the top tier Thricefold players from the rest.
I believe so. Yeah. And we talked about these complicated timing windows, but he didn't use it during one of those windows. He used it.
Yeah, he used it in a relatively straightforward.
Yeah.
Before I attack, I'm letting you know you're not going to have this.
Yeah.
So not even using it in one of those like very finicky edge case things that, as of right now, since it's any point during your action, you can do some really nasty things that I imagine Slanesh would approve of, but it appears that Daniela does not.
Yeah. One of the things that we've seen a lot in the games up till now, with the Dromm on the table, almost universally using Reckless Fury. That other side of the pairing, the Italians found a different route to go, but there's been this idea of like, I'm going to try and counterplay, Arena Mortis or what have you. But in this situation, the Thricefold are saying, that's fine. I'm going to keep scoring right along with you.
Yeah, you do that, and it helps me as well, because I think in this particular mirror, there are several cards that don't say you did this thing, but this board state exists, and if it's true for me, it's true for you.
Yes.
So the Gorechosen actually, to an extent, working towards scoring for his opponent, which is another great counterplay. So then James has to make the hard choice. I won't score this, but that means he won't score it either.
Mm-hmm.
Do I reduce the total glory cap by limiting us both, or do I just commit to my game plan and hope that my dice fall better? And that is the case here. So let's turn back to the table. Looks like Daniela has immediately won the board placement, seeing as James took it in the first game. So in a best of 3 in this tournament, we are allowing the person who lost the roll-off first to be presumed to have won at the second. And Daniela choosing again the side of the board with no block hexes. Both players having the desire to be in the mix and having nothing in their way. That seems like it'd be the reasonable choice. So they both run their cards, and now it's time for the token placement. James shuffling his deck and getting ready to put those down.
Looks like we are an hour and a half into this 4-hour round. Despite the high stakes and the potential tension at the board, we're still seeing some banter, some laughing. Despite my predictions to the contrary, we didn't see any delving. Some of that is because both of the two save dice fighters were eliminated so early in the game. Richard in the chat with some emoji work that I'm too old to understand. Eric's coming out right away. James has a good sense of where he wanted him. We did see James take a very prolonged final deployment with Gorechosen last time. We'll see if things slow down. Daniele assessing the board. Again, leading with Vastus. Dromm. I have to imagine Gorechosen is going to go next to Treasure Token 3, but I've been wrong before. Many times. Lassevier, don't care, going up front. We saw in the first match with James winning roll-off and saying that he wanted to have Daniele take the first activation. We'll see if that continues this time. We'll see who wins the roll-off, but we'll see if they try to push that initial activation on the other player, giving him some modicum of counterpunch. Gorechosen going further back. All right. Vexmore Last time Vexmore was way off on his own. I think that was an effort to keep him safe in the early game because Daniele knew that he was the closer. We'll see if he... Yes, he does again. Both players going to take a pause. Going to take a pause to get a little stretch of their legs, clear their heads. The board is deployed, and they'll be back to the table in just a few minutes. In fact, my co-host has done the same. So here I am all by my lonesome. Would love to see if folks think there's any adjustment that James needs to make, or is it just a matter of dice? If there's how much on his mind is going to be that Unrelenting Massacre 3 glorious score. We didn't see it come from James' hand. That may mean that it was just never there. I think he would have dug for it if he had it, so I don't think he's got it included. We'll see if he ever has any opportunity to counterplay, or if the pressure to just keep charging and keep using his fighters is going to be too great. The only counterplay that jumps in mind to me is Get It Done, which I think takes a charge token, hands it off to someone else. He may be able to use that in the last power step of a given round in order to make sure that there's one fighter without a charge token. Samsky suggesting going after Vexmore a little more, and John agreeing. I think that's fair. Players back at the board, handshake, and the roll off. We have hammer and a sword. It looks like Daniele has indicated on his board that the first player is going to be James. So Fish, welcome back. It looks like we have, in this case, it's reversed, where James is going to be taking the first activation here. Daniela leaning back. Once again, we had Vexmore all the way up far north.
I think that's wondering if that's because James has learned to fear him, or because he's hoping he can do a better job of staying away, preventing that commanding stride, forcing a charge. I mean,
to me, that's Daniela saying, "Hey, like this is my closer fighter. I'm going to make sure if you want to come after me early, you're going to have to come after me with just a single fighter, and then I'm not going to have any charge tokens that I'm going to start doing.
And I can go ahead and start laying into him back, of course, yeah." And uninspired Vexmore only on one attack die as well, so really does need to use that indolent ability until he's inspired.
Yeah. I misread the board state here. It looks like, I guess Daniela's got to go first again.
All right.
One success.
One success out of her. She rolls 2 hammers, and that is not a success there. So at range 2, only 1 damage when uninspired. The Gorehulk, my apologies, Dromm takes 1 damage, but it does score him a card. So okay to give 1 damage and 1 blood tithe out to score a surge and get the action rolling early.
Daniela's got to love that opener right now. Dromm is only taking 1 damage here. That's the uninspired Vastus. Only lays 1 in on that. Spent a lot of time talking about how Daniela was not interested in giving up 1 blood tithe for 1 damage.
But I guess this game he's okay with it.
I think maybe if you have an objective in hand to surge into, get the party started on your upgrades, maybe just go for it.
Question in the chat from Rob: can the players hear you guys? The answer is generally no. It's relatively loud in here. We're positioned maybe 10 to 15 feet away from the players. So that means that unless we raise our voices, they can't hear. Generally, I'll yell out if I see a double crit or something. But for the most part, they're not able to hear, "Ooh, I think he has this card in his hand," or "Oh, I already saw him score that." Players after the games, I generally go up and talk to them, congratulate them on the performance. No one has ever said that they could hear us, and a couple have actually commented that they could not. So we'll have to assume that the things that we say are behind a curtain from the players, unless we're explicitly interacting with them, which I try to do only during celebratory moments.
Yeah, and that's part of our pregame brief to the players. Is like, listen, we're not going to be able to hear you. You're not going to be able to hear us. If for some reason that changes, if you think you can hear us, give us a wave, because it's not even just whether they can hear exactly what we're saying. If anything we're doing is like taking away from their experience, distracting them, we don't want to be doing that. We're here to bring the game to you without interfering with the integrity of the game here.
Yeah, we want to make sure that they have the purest gaming experience, that we're seeing them at their absolute best. Anything that we say that might get in the way of that is something that we want to avoid.
This is the second game in a row that Daniela has clearly prioritized Dromm as a target. What do you think about that choice?
We've seen in prior matches the things that Dromm Inspired can do, able to reach out at 2 range, do some substantial damage to people, can have a command and control of the center of the board if he wants. The Gorehulk, obviously a terrifying fighter as well, but with 6 wounds, harder to take down than 5 for Dromm. So if you want 3 bounty, Dromm might not be a bad choice.
That's a good point. Inspired, they're both potentially doing 3 damage at range 2. Dromm needing his Inspired sides inbuilt Grievous to do that. And the Blade Catcher has the chance to, perhaps shut that down. But that accuracy may be also an important factor. The 3 hammers versus where the Gorehulk is just throwing 2.
Comment here in the chat from Wizwang. Enrage on Vexmore is not a bad play. That's an interesting point. We do know, based on the rules, that Enrage is to select a fighter. It does not have to be a friendly fighter. So you can force an opponent to charge who wasn't planning to. Now, there are risks with this because in a power step, they do get to make an attack. So you could potentially be taking 5 attacks in one round and using one of your abilities to benefit the other fighter. But in a situation where saying, hey, Vexmore, I'm going to give you a charge token. You only have Herax as a target. You won't have Indolent. Sucks to be you. Could be a good play. And against a hold objective player, critically able to drag someone off of a token could be the game winner as well. So Enrage can be used on your opponent. We've rarely seen it here, but in the right circumstances can be backbreaking for an opponent. James again using Call of Blood early.
Yeah, and this was impressive because he used it for a push 2. That's going to be 2.
Yeah, that's a critical successes. And a success. Vash is uninspired, only on 1 dodge. So going for the crit, hoping to stand fast, but it's not going to be enough. Does inspire Lassevier, though. And then he's going to try and reduce the damage with Evasive here. Or perhaps he already did. I suppose so.
It was the Gorehulk. Wow.
Getting Branching Fate as well as Perfect Strike. So
the Gorehulk going for the lower damage attack in order to make sure that he had a chance at Branching Fate, which he got. Played for and got.
Oh, and then also because Uninspired, that throttle attack does not have Grievous. It only does 1. You cannot reduce something to less than 1 unless explicitly saying otherwise in the ability. So no need for Daniela to roll Evasive because reducing 1 to 1, not really valuable for him.
James eliminating his Blood Tithe immediately. He's back down to a 0 count. But I think he knows from the previous matchup that it's likely to get there again. The extraordinarily fast Inspired Lassevier running all the way into the back line.
Inspired Lassevier throwing 3 hammers here. 3 hammers into 1 shield. Probability is roughly...
We got 1 success.
68% chance of success, and it looks like that did go through for Daniela. He also has the ability for Wicked Slice to put 1 more damage out on someone within 2.
So I think he's going
2
to do.
damage,
Yep.
and then 1
Dromm
more
is
to
now
Dromm.
vulnerable.
Dromm is vulnerable, but it does notably give 2 Blood Tithe because the damage was dealt 2 different times.
Yep.
So James now able to make some use of some War Scroll abilities. He has himself 3 Blood Tithe total.
Yeah. James pointing out that he should be at 3 Blood Tithe. He forgot
to
put any on.
Hit Vastus earlier. And then, while he still has the fighters alive to do it, making use of the thrice full Discord ability, Eldritch Enmity, once per game. Instead of you playing a power card, in your power step, you pick 2 friendly fighters, push them each up to 1 hex, and they must end further from the other.
Yeah.
So, getting out of town, saying, okay, I've charged out here. I don't want you to be able to punch me back with your high damage attacks, forcing you to charge later. And that could be ending up to be a very smart and impactful play from Daniela here. Did not get to use that last game because he waited too long. Not losing that chance this time.
Call of Blood and, what do we say, Eldritch Enmity, both coming out early. It's fun that they're kind of mirrors of each other. Call of Blood pulling 2 fighters together. Eldritch Enmity pushing them apart.
Call of Blood a little more flexible because you can choose any 2 fighters and spend some resources to move more hexes if you need. But they do act in this state as quite a good counter to one another.
Call of Blood does need them to not have any move or charge tokens, and so
not a condition on the
yeah, pros and cons on both. But I think both players have demonstrated throughout this tournament that being able to leverage those War Scroll abilities in a good way has been a big deal. I have to wonder if Daniela's got some way to get Vex more involved more easily.
Ideally, without a charge token, as we've discussed. Illusory Fighter could pop him over there. Commanding Stride won't really get him into a useful position.
Well, if it's a combo of the two, though, then we've got it.
Across a 20-card power deck and only drawing 5 to start, though. Odds are low you've got them both.
Yeah.
All right, Daniela using another War Scroll ability. This one is Feuding. No finer thing in the Dark Prince's court than to utterly shame a rival. Once per game, you can use this ability immediately after your action step. Pick one inspired friendly fighter and one uninspired friendly fighter, and switch which one is inspired and uninspired. So
to me, that reads as
Vashtis is now inspired, and she is the one on 2 dodge.
Yeah.
He thinks that's who's going to get hit back first.
Yeah. I think he's okay with Lassevier taking a hit, since Lassevier is not in one-shot range from the Gore Hulk. And Lassevier on 1 dice would likely to give an Inspire back to somebody else. Vashtis dying would give an Inspire to somebody, but I don't think he wants to give up that much bounty, that much blood tithe for a kill.
Losing 2 fighters early last time put him in a bit of a difficult situation. He did manage to claw his way back, but I think he would rather keep 2 or 3 fighters for as long as possible in this second game. Notably, he did use the same ability to put Lassevier on 2 dodge last game, but it did not end up coming through for him. So hoping that the odds fall better in his favor this time. Now James having to make the hard decision. Do I go for a fighter who is within kill range, or do I go for a fighter who is easier to hit and start accumulating some blood tithe?
But John Grant asking what our thoughts are on War Scrolls that we've seen them played a bit. I'm not sure if that's a general idea of War Scrolls in general as a concept, or these specific War Scrolls. As a concept, I've actually enjoyed them quite a bit. It feels like you are guaranteed the flavor of your warband because it's on demand, it's open. You don't have to draw into the specific warband cards to be able to do that. Obviously, there was things on your fighters and such, but it has made every game feel like, hey, this warband is getting to express its character no matter what.
Yeah, and interestingly, we're seeing here 2 players using the same Nemesis pairing, so the same 2 decks, ostensibly a very similar pool of cards between the 2, but I would not say that we're watching a mirror match right now.
Right.
Not only are the fighters' stats different, but their War Scroll abilities giving substantial differences in the way that they play and the things they're able to do.
Yeah. The occasional problem you would have in first edition, as much as I love first edition, is sometimes you'd have a faction deck that was just not very good, and so I'd end up building a deck that leached a lot of that warband flavor out because I just couldn't afford the extra. Dromm making a charge. You can see he's clearly going for a safer spot here. He's getting as far away from Vexmore as the only remaining charge.
Notably, though, only
1 success.
The range 2 attack would only do 1 damage here.
And
no successes
here.
At the last Vashtis, but it will inspire another fighter because she rolled no successes. And so that fighter has chosen to be Vexmore, meaning that if he does have to make a charge, he'll at least still be throwing 2 dice.
Yeah. Now, if Daniela's holding the Reckless Fury card, that it's over to you. If he can pass off that charge token from either of his other fighters here, he's going to have the chance for a kill shot on Dromm.
One last comment on the benefit of the War Scroll system as opposed to the Rivals deck system is often before you would be playing a single warband saying, I have this incredibly flavorful card, key to their play style, just a signature thing. I see this warband, I expect to see this card, and it defines their play style. If it's a card, in one, every 3rd or 4th game, you may never even draw that card. And in other games, you draw it too late to be useful. Now you have that available to you every time. And so you can expect to see 1 to 3 of their War Scroll abilities played in most games. And that signature style being consistently available will make games more enjoyable for the player playing them and a more understandable, predictable experience to play against. So I think it does maybe reduce the total pool of flavorful cards, but it does mean more consistent flavor. And so far, I haven't felt like we're lacking very much in that department. Now we have a commanding stride followed by what looks like a charge. So 2 dice looking for hammers out of Vexmore. No successes.
Nothing at all.
But that will inspire Lassevier. And it's Branching Fate.
Fate is the underdog.
As the underdog, he only needed 2 dice to score it.
Good time to have that. The entire Thricefold Discord now inspired.
Not a bad position to be in. Vashtis only 2 health left, but otherwise undamaged. And again, Dromm within 1 hit of death, and only 4 dice available for Final Frenzy means relatively low chance of survival if he does manage to put that last damage on. Now, Utter Ignorance has come out on Vexmore, meaning that.
So if I'm James right now, I'm thinking that Vashtis might be the target. Vashtis currently has a kill shot on Dromm.
And also able to be killed.
I believe that's
coming
Kenai.
out, going on the Gorehulk.
Gorehulk's going to be swinging 1 more dice. Could come in to attempt to get the kill on Vashtis. Save Dromm.
Likely the best play he has here. We're throwing 3 dice for hammers against 2 dodge. If he gets that, even if she stands fast or evasive, she'll still die. She would have to do both to survive. 3 hammers against 2 dodge for those watching at home is 44. No, I'm apologizing. 62.5% chance. So pretty good odds there.
But not guaranteed.
Not guaranteed,
yeah.
as we have seen, yes.
Mr. Nakabu asking what folks thinks are the top 3 and bottom 3 war bands. Rating his Dromm, Headsman, and Mollog. It's so new, it's hard to say. I think Dromm has clearly shown that they have the raw power for a lot of folks to reach that way. Fish, I don't think we're going to have time for our pink slip game.
Probably not,
If we were going to do it, I was bringing Thricefold.
You were bringing Thricefold?
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to bring Kagger's Ravagers.
Oh, man. All right.
As we saw Alessandro do quite well with them, I took a very similar deck to Zach Newcomb, who was playing earlier on the stream. A lot of defensive ability, a lot of hold objective, but still capable of putting out a lot of damage. I think a lot of people have overlooked them. I don't know that they're in the top 3, but they're pretty strong. Dromm, Headsman, Thricefold, all very strong, as we've seen, making it into the top cut. And I think, despite the fact we saw no Morgox crushes here at this tournament, I think there is a lot of potential there, and they have some interesting matchups into the other top dogs in this current meta.
Yeah. I found Mollog to be super interesting. I haven't seen Mollog on the board yet, but they, as far as I can read on paper, I think that's a war scroll that actually makes those squigs pretty important. I think they're big contributors, notably for having the ability to make anyone next to them surrounded. Big accuracy and defensive boost. Amazing VHS. Are you Wathlab in disguise? Chosen axes, and chosen axes?
There is a chance.
Right. Here it is. Target priority. We talked about it. Gorehulk going in, trying to lay some damage in on Vexmore. There is a crit and a success.
1 success with the flanked. Vexmore only on 1 defense, so no bothering to roll. That's 3 damage out on Vexmore, who does have Utter Ignorance, but he's only 2 away from having to burn it. Seeing as how effective Vexmore was last game, is possibly James is saying, I'm going to get that out of here so I don't have to think about that in the end of this one. And I can't say I disagree with that choice.
No, strong.
Call out in the chat for Black Powder being the worst warband. I don't know if I agree with that, having not played with them yet, but it's really hard to overlook the fact that Black Powder himself is an 8-wound fighter. And 8 wounds, especially if you have access to something like, say, Utter Ignorance.
Right.
Frightening to deal with.
We're in the power step, and honestly, I think James is thinking about whether he wants to use his enrage ability right now. Get another charge.
He has the blood tithe for it, though he's worried likely that he'll need to use it to save Dromm, and each die he spends on enrage is one that he does not get for that final frenzy roll. That said, if he doesn't use enrage this round, it will become more expensive as the game goes on.
Yeah.
So there is a bit of a cost-benefit analysis having to be done here.
If it's me, I think I'm letting Dromm die. If it comes to it at this point in the game,
the odds, especially if there's some overkill on this many dice, not that high, and then you have none left and are much further from inspiration. So it is a hard pill to swallow to take Dromm out early. He gets 3 bounty and a good offensive piece off the board, but you do have to make those hard choices, and the Gorechosen being able to be inspired may be incredibly important for his game plan moving forward.
We're currently on James in the power step. He's making some choices here. Again, maybe considering enrage, rubbing the back of his head, slapping his face, cycling through his cards again.
Just continuing the best and worst warband questions in the chat. Not really relevant to this game, but I, coming into this event, had pretty low expectations for Spikeclaw Swarm. The very first game on the stream was Pavel, who proved me wrong immediately. I said, okay, this is class. It's a strike warband. They obviously want to set up that Grievous with their leader. They want to get out some attacks, but they just don't have the damage output.
Yeah.
I can't see them being super successful. And Pavel said, well, yeah, I don't see that either. So I'm going to take a KG hold strategy and do quite well with it. He did end up losing that match, but he has won several others and taken games off of some top players, even in matches where he lost. So you may be able to find success by playing in an unexpected way with one of these warbands that others consider less powerful. And there are some warbands at this tournament that were overlooked by many, some cards that were overlooked by many, and we're starting to learn as this meta takes shape in real time in front of us that a lot of us may have been wrong about some things.
Brandon Smith saying, wow, this looks cool. What is this?
This is Warhammer Underworlds, the greatest game that Games Workshop makes, and arguably the greatest game I've ever played. It is a fast arena combat game. Games take about an hour. You have 12 activations to take throughout the course of the game, so each player having a limited pool of options available to them to make moves, attack their opponents, and occupy the board. You score glory for taking certain things, and the player with the most glory at the end wins. So multiple paths to victory, and you can find a playstyle that suits whatever's fun for you. And at the very least, they're gorgeous miniatures and an engaging game rule set.
Brandon Smith, if I may ask, how did you happen upon this stream if you're not aware of what Underworlds is? We got a shuffle back.
YouTube random is how Brandon found us, which is exciting. Glad you've landed here. Brandon, if you're watching along and enjoying what you see here, I will let you know that it's a little self-promotion, but I do run a website known as spentglory.com. If you go there, I have a new player's primer about what to look for, about why this game is so good and what you might need to start playing. The great thing about this box is that it takes only one box, one friend, and 1 hour to play a game. It's a relatively low investment, almost infinite replayability.
Yeah.
There's lots of things that you can do. So if you have any board game interested friends in your life, grab one of them and sit down for an hour and see if you can't give Warhammer Underworlds a try.
Yeah. It's a game with a lot of breadth and a lot of depth. You know,
Absolutely.
if you want to sample a whole lot of different things, you have that option for you. The game is about to have, or we're just freshly in our second edition. We're about to have 33 warbands that are in competitive play with a few more. Here comes Enrage. James declaring that he's going to use Enrage, and Daniela giving a A smile and a nod. He knew it was coming. For the low cost of one blood tithe,
of
you get a
those
whole
5
other
that he
action.
has. Yeah, so inspiration a little bit further away, but if you don't do it now, it'll be more expensive as the game goes on, and really do want to get that extra damage out. Now the question is, do we go for Vexmore and try and strip Utter Ignorance off, or do you turn around and see if you can't take Vashtis off the table? I think James running through that math himself right now. So we've got the Gorehulk, and yeah, it's Vashtis. Take some pieces off the board. We'll deal with Vexmore later. 3 hammers into 2 dodge, 60-something% chance, as I said before.
I thought he was going to keep the pressure up on Vexmore there.
Oh, not
brutal.
what you wanted to see. I suppose he would have missed either target, but
yep.
Crushing because he's now also out of position to hit Vexmore next round.
Power step continues. Technically, that was James's power step. You can see the disappointment on his face, but I'm sure he's had these rolls before, and I don't doubt that he's going to find his composure.
Interestingly, he is giving the benefit of flanked for the defensive roll on Dromm here, so that may have been part of his calculation of, should I fail this attack, at least I'll maybe keep Dromm alive a little bit longer. One has left the tray, so that does not count. Daniela retrieving it off the floor. That result of Surrounded being a failure here. And the second die, we're looking for hammers.
There's a success.
We got one, so 1 success. And Dromm,
oh, and he missed it.
Surrounded result won't do it. So Dromm off the board, and 1 more blood tithe, but 3 bounty going over to Daniela.
And you can see,
as you expected, not going to burn Final Frenzy on
Stadium. James not even pausing to think about it. He knew exactly what he wanted there.
As we've said before, it's not like James to not have a plan, and he has a plan. He knew already. I think he'd written off, to an extent, Dromm, saying, yeah, it's pretty likely I'll lose him. And if I do, here's how I'm going to handle the next round. So, disappointing result for him, but not necessarily backbreaking. We've seen fighters come back from worse results before.
Now, here's an interesting decision point here. James, with Herrick's there, is the only fighter who does not have a charge token. He has a range 2 attack. It's not very powerful, but he could just take a swing on Vexmore.
And we know Daniela has a 3 glory card for having every fighter charging.
Unrelenting Massacre.
I would imagine
a safe play here might be a range 2 attack without.
Just pop something over to Vexmore for fun, tack up another blood tithe, get him out of range so he has to charge again next round, and potentially block a 3 glory head face score. Excellent choice if that's how he's thinking.
Yeah. Trying to see what objectives Daniela might be in line for. He can get Arena Mortis. He does not have Bloody Momentum on the board yet. Red Aftermath is scoreable.
Head case going down on Herax. He's deciding to give him a charge token and take 1 more punch with the Gorehulk instead. Also a decent play.
Yep.
Though does open up the window for Daniela to score some cards.
Yeah. This is him showing that he's committing to slaying Vashtis, I think. Are we straight into the end phase here, I suppose?
Well, I suppose he didn't have any activations left.
Yeah.
But he's done this for the purpose of getting out some charge token related scores for himself.
Massacre. Massacre went. It happened.
Yeah, so.
Right at the end.
Yeah. James nodding his head in the discussion. I think he knew that was a risk, but he said, well, if I do this, I'll score 4. I'll hand you 3, but it's still a net win for me. Disappointing result. Like there was, about even or better odds that Massacre would be not in his hand, but a risk he had to take, and one that he may not be disappointed about overall. Discarding Wings of War, doesn't think he'll need it.
Daniela with the lead.
Spending some glory to put out Fury of Akshi, so forcing that'll make it so that Vashtis has only a charge option available to start the round. So, and Vexmore now with great fortitude, so he has 3 health away from death, and with Utter Ignorance will survive past that for 1 more hit.
James, not having either of his fighters inspired at this point, they're still at 5 blood tithe. He did. We're almost positive all those upgrades appear to have gone down on the Gorehulk. We got great fortitude has also gone on Vexmore, still trying to keep him out of trouble. I'm not sure I know which one's on Lassevier here, but
Like a Reckless Fury card. I'll see if I can find which one it is.
here we got the roll off. We got a crit and a crit, and James with the underdog will win the try, and looks like he's gesturing that he'll go first. Right away, if he can get this kill, crit success. If he can get this kill, he will inspire because it's a 2 bounty and the damage.
Hidden Aid is the card on Lassevier. So
Lassevier almost does it. 3 damage, and he does not have enough to.
Vash is gone. And Fury of Action being on the Gorehulk means that if he charges to Vexmore, it will force the charge, force the dropping of Indolent. Not a bad play that could come up later, as well as scoring some surges for that. So
Get stuck in and critical effort.
I haven't been able to look up the cards. Hidden Aid is the upgrade that's been given to Lassevier, so enemy fighters adjacent to this fighter count as flanked. So giving some supports on attack, and if he is adjacent, some flanked results on defense as well. So pretty high utility card, and bringing Lassevier up to how they were in the first edition.
James had to breathe a sigh of relief when he saw that crit from Daniele on the roll off, and then rolled his own to bring it back even.
Yeah, because being able to take priority here was very useful for him. Able to inspire off of both the damage dealt and the bounty that gained from Vash just being slain. So now, no charge tokens on either fighter, and much better attack profiles as well.
My presumption here is the best play is to just start chipping away at Herrick's, score some bounty there.
Yeah, you don't want to charge if you're Vexmore, and since you know Fury of Action is on the Gorehulk, guessing that's where you'll end up next, and then you'll have to charge if you want to activate it then. So if you want to make the most use of his indolent ability, you kind of have to do it now while you still have that opening.
Brandon Smith got here from Blood Bowl, and I can respect that. I really fallen off on anything that's more complicated measuring wise than counting hexes or counting spaces. So.
Yeah, no, that's one of the biggest benefits of this game in my experience, because you may say, oh, my fighter moves 6 inches. You put out a tape measure and you fiddle with things, and they have to sit on the edge of a hill and they're tipping over, and now it's time for me to shoot. Well, I'm like 12.1 inches away from you. Do I count as being in? And we'll haggle about it. Here, you don't have to worry about that. I know exactly how many hexes away you are.
Yeah.
And you agree. And am I in range or not? There's no debate, which cuts down on a lot of that negotiation, and you can just get to actually playing the game.
We saw Hidden Aid come down on the Gorehulk, and then Healing Potion now from the underdog position allows Daniele to heal 2. Vexmore needs 5 to kill him the first time.
And then at least 1 more to get him again. That's crippling. James, I think, is aware of that, talking to himself a little bit, working through his options. But he had a line of play, and I think now he's going to have to reassess his options. Do you think it's better to turn around and take Lassevier off the board, or is Vexmore still the target?
Lassevier represents an awful lot of damage.
And now that the inspiration has happened, he's not afraid to hand out more Blood Tithe, at least to a certain extent. I don't believe Utter Ignorance has made its way to the board on the Corn side, so only Final Frenzy to save him if he does go down, though both fighters at full health. You know the... All right, for fans at home, the other semifinal match between Matteo and Maxim is currently going to a game 3.
Wow.
First game went 17-10 for Matteo, so powerful play out of him. As we saw last game, very strong player. However, in game 2, they ended on a 15-15 tie. Tiebreakers tipping it over to Maxim. So they are playing for a third. Either one could advance. And hard to say exactly what will happen. That's Mateo's first game loss in several rounds, and his first of the championship bracket at all.
He had not lost any games in the championship bracket, and he has not dropped a match in pool play.
Actually, flapping his lips in a sigh of somewhat frustration over there, pacing around the table waiting for his opponent to come back to the board. He wanted to win that one 2-0, and he was, one tiebreaker score away from doing it, but he'll have to play a game 3. So Maxim not out of it yet. Canadians still have a chance to make it to the final. But let's pop back in on our game here and see what James and Daniela decide to do. So Daniela flipping his activation token. It looks like the obvious play is to get Vexmore to take that indolent swing. He'll be throwing 3 dice with hammers. And a reroll from accurate, but it doesn't look like he'll need it. 2 crits and a success. Wow. That'll score him a surge as well. And drive Herax into a stagger hex for good measure.
I think we'll swiftly be seeing the end of Herax.
Yeah. Lassevier can't use the Wicked Slice to put that last damage out on Herax, but being staggered on 1 defense and Lassevier having Hidden Aid, incredibly high reliability attack there.
For folks in the chat who are talking starter sets, for anyone picking something up, just remember that a new edition has dropped. You may be looking at like a Barnes & Noble or a GW starter set. Make sure that you're picking up the Emberguard core set. That is the sort of starting point.
You can make use of those warbands in the other box. There are free online downloadable rules for those, but you will want the Emberguard box because of the board, tokens, dice, and rulebook is going to allow you to play this newest edition of the game. So if you're making a single purchase, the Emberguard box is the correct one.
And if you are looking to get in a little easier, you should be able to pick up a warband as long as you've got a friend who's got already got the boards and tokens and such. So that's a way to ease in if there's already a community there. That's how we do a lot of it with our folks. We'll show up with enough stuff that if that's all the more you want to start with.
So taking a look also, if Lassevier does end up going for Herax, which I imagine they will, my math doesn't have the ability to factor in these rerolls, but with 3 hammer and 1 support against a single shield fighter, there is somewhere between an 85 and 93% chance.
Holy
of success.
Cow!
So you've got to imagine
even better.
that there's a pretty low odds of Herax surviving that if Lassevier does decide to make that attack. And with it being 2 damage, they won't even be able to use Stand Fast to reduce it.
For those who are looking to get in or get your friends into the game, pointing out that there's been a lot of changes to this edition to make it a little more accessible. One of those things is just the 1 board. So as long as one player's got the board, you got all you need.
Box does come with 2 warbands in it, so 1 person having it means that they and a friend can play with no extra stuff. And so it does make it a relatively accessible as a closed board game experience, like you might think of for other board games. But there is a great degree of expansion content available. As I've been playing this game twice a week for 7 years now, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. So if that sounds like the kind of long-term haul you want to get yourself stuck into, this is a very fun game, and I hope will not regret it and end up turning into as much of a diehard as I have.
For folks who are looking for more information on getting in, again, Fish Mode here has run the Spent Glory blog for some time. It's got a great getting started. Good to look at that. Another one that is an awesome resource for starting players is the Battle Mallet podcast. Their approach to new releases is to talk about, hey, for a new player, what do I need to know about this warband? So they'll rate them for their accessibility and then give you some tips for, hey, what are some cards I want to see in my starting hand if I don't know anything else about it? So that's a nice place to go and check out some more.
While we're on that note, Davey too humble to promote himself, so I'll do it for him. Davey is a member of the What the Hex crew. They do have a website. They also have a podcast. Excellent competitive content. So if you're looking to advance to the next stage of your playability and start working towards winning a local tournament, that is where you can go to see the assessment of each card's potential value, some use cases, and Skylar made his way to the World Tournament, so very high-level players on their team as well. So if you are looking for ways to improve your play, that's a great place to start.
I think we're currently on James. Not entirely sure if we're still in the power step or if both players have passed and now just waiting on the action. That's another good resource. Trifos is pointing out Goonhammer. Jake, one of the nicest human beings you could possibly meet, is running the content for Goonhammer. It's a one-man show over there right now. Given how much work it was for our team to get all that preview content covered, I literally don't understand how he did it with just himself. And it's absolutely worth taking a look at. That's right. Actually, another good point. Skylar is running usually a Tuesday at noon Central. He does a live stream, and then they're available on demand. It's a What the Decks, and it is a spinoff from us. And he does a live deck build. Takes his lunch hour, builds a deck out, explains his thought process behind it, and then a lot of times we go play it and report back on how it went. He has been dormant while we wait for Emberguard to release. But I would expect he's going to probably take this Tuesday off to recover, but he'll be back at it. All right, here we go. Herrick's figured Herrick's was going to go. Needs to try and get to a safe spot.
Herrick's positioning himself to potentially drive Lassevier away. I'm not sure particularly the value because Lassevier has no charge tokens and only a range 1 attack, but maybe he's thinking to put a little space between himself and Vexmore.
I think they're asking right now, in previous editions, when attacking along the edge of a board, this would not actually be possible. Well, that's not true.
It's not a block text.
So in previous editions, if this has been a block text that was off on the edge, it would disrupt line of sight. The question is whether an edge does that. I think there's not. I think this is a valid attack.
I want to say it is, but we are calling over the judging crew just to make sure that that's true because we'd hate for one player or the other to find that they had done something wrong, taken an advantage they weren't allowed to have, and that could spoil the experience for either player. So before anyone rolls any dice, we just want to make sure that this is okay. And both players seem comfortable with waiting for the judges to make that call. And if it's okay, then we'll roll, and if not, then James will find another spot to move to.
What do we think this positioning for Herrick's is telling us? You know, I would expect the Lassevier with a follow-up to probably attack from even farther away from Gorehulk. I don't know.
I mean, my assumption is he's trying to draw Vexmore further into the territory and force him to use a charge token. He already was 3 away from Vexmore, but if there was a sidestep, then he'd still be able to use Indolent. So Killing Commanding Stride has already been played. This is going to make a charge token come out on Vexmore if he wants to get into the fight, and I would imagine that's his goal, but James knows some things that I don't, so we'll see later in the game what the reasoning was for this.
Yep.
All right, looks like it is valid, so going to be rolling some dice here. Herrick's looking for 3 swords, I believe. But
Deep Dive and Bloke in the chat reminding us about Path to Glory podcast. They do blog work as well. The entirety of their team is here at Worlds. That would be George, known as Kairos on the Discord, Mark Baconborn, and then Aman, who I think is just Aman. They are all
the
here.
The man who needs only one name. Aman did make the top 16 cut this year, and Mark was featured on our stream 2 days ago. So if you're interested to see how that went, you can go ahead and roll back. You find it on the same webpage that you're on now. And you should be able to watch a really high-level play out of Mark earlier.
With Canaan's Reapers, it was awesome. Yeah. Really cool to see.
All right, last bit charging around the corner. Staggered Herrick's. Remember, somewhere between 85 and 93% odds here.
So you're saying there's a chance.
There is. Somewhere between 5 and 13. There's that's a full miss. We'll get 1 reroll out of this. And that did not go in the tray. And that's a failure. So, you know what? I was saying there's somewhere around 7%. But James got away with it. I think he knows he got away with it. Facial expression there being like stunned disbelief. Players actually agreeing that it's time to take a restroom break, which not a bad idea. It's been a long game for them. I actually already ran away once. You didn't see on camera, but
I'm going to be due before too long. The judges were saying, hey, good news is going to be these 4 hours more relaxed rounds. I'm like, doesn't really help us much. We're sitting and talking the whole
You're
talking
for 4 hours, and morning coffee didn't let me wait those 4
asking
hours.
Who won game one. That went to Daniele. Won it. It was tight all the way through, but managed to move into a commanding position. Really lost actually both his fighters.
Quite early at round one.
Yep.
Vexmore alone did the rest of the work. Some really good use of upgrades and positioning out of both players.
Yep.
But some dice fell just the right way. And some very, very thorough looking through each other's objective decks to make sure that I know exactly what can and cannot come out. And in the end, Daniela took it. But this game is still far from over and could go either way. Might work towards the third. As we know, the other semifinalists are in their third game now, so some tie matches there. And when you get to this height of level of play, you can't expect an easy match out of anyone.
Yeah. It's currently just a one glory game in the difference. And that we are 11-10 in favor of the Gorechosen. Really trying to, if you had to decide who is in a stronger position right now, got any?
It's tough to say. Vexmore is loaded up with multiple upgrades that will keep him alive, as well as having a reroll on his attack.
Mm-hmm.
That said, he's going to have to charge to get into the game, losing his indolent ability and losing Grievous, so may not be able to put out the damage. The Gorehulk still has full health, and there's still many dice available for the Final Frenzy to keep him alive.
Yeah.
So Herak's likely to cash out here pretty quick. Vexmore at largely full health and several upgrades. Gorehulk at full health with several upgrades. Kind of, a championship heavyweight bout.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. There are some War Scroll abilities that neither one has used yet, so things may actually come down to some dice, but I've shown before in the last game that both players have significant capacity to surprise us with the utility of their positional play. I think, honestly, at this point, it looks like a coin flip.
Yeah. I think one thing working in Daniela's favor is that most of the combat is happening over on the Gorechosen side of the board.
True.
I mean, the bloody momentum is still available to be scored. That's for being in enemy territory, and there's a number of those surges that want you to be in enemy territory in some way. So by forcing the engagement over here, I think Daniela likes it. And then there's common objectives where if one's going to score it, both are going to score it. So
being able to separate the two decks by saying what territory are we in may be the thing that gives the edge to Daniela. Interesting to see, because almost every Gorechosen that has happened across this tournament is hard pressing into enemy territory, and the fighting happens there. So Discord being able to pull things back to keep the Gorechosen in their own territory, perhaps a unique ability of this deck and this player, but is changing the math on some of those cards for sure.
Yep. Deep dive and bloke. I'm glad it's helping you with your local. It's a big thing. What the heck's. We do some stuff, to help improve game, but like I would say one of our biggest focuses is like what are ways to build communities. I have a soft spot for creating episode titles that are like puns or jokes or whatever. They end up being like nobody could actually know what this episode is actually about. Unfortunately, Brian has twisted my arm behind my back and made me make sure that if we have an episode that is geared towards like onboarding a new player or running your first event, that we just say, hey, that's what this is. So there's a little bit of a back library. If you need some ideas on helping how to build your community up, run your first event or what have you, there's a resource there. Lots of great things available. If players are returning to the board, so we're going to go back there.
If you are looking to build your community, few better people to ask than Davey, because long ago he and Phil were just two men in a store for years and years, and now they routinely have 20 or more people at their league nights.
Yep.
So you can take that and really expand on something and have a huge variety of play. When I run local tournaments, if I get 20 people, I'm feeling really happy.
Yeah.
He's got 20 people at a weekly game night. So you cannot hear from a better source of information on how to expand your community than what the heck's.
Catching people up to the current board state. Obviously, we're 11 to James, 10 to Daniele. Dromm is gone. Both Vexmore and the Gorehulk are pretty far away from getting killed. Dromm, with great fortitude and only one damage on him, means that, here comes a healing potion for the Gorehulk. For Herak's, presumably.
And he is not the underdog, so just the one.
I'm not seeing him pick up any. I'm wondering if this is a focus action.
Focus action, yeah, because it won't save.
I was going to say that there's no help for Herak's there.
So James digging through his deck, hoping for something else. Not sure what it is he wants to see.
Yeah.
I think Fury of Actually is already out, which is the upgrade I would have been digging for if I were him.
That's an important one to be aware of. The Gorehulk does have Fury of Actually on him right now, so that is an upgrade that requires anyone adjacent must charge. Here we go, Vexmore.
With the charge, we'll lose dice, but he does have 2 hammers and a reroll and flanked. So
Daniele clearly, Blade Catcher.
I'm going to take something off of you and put Blade Catcher on. And I don't know what upgrade it is that he's stolen with that, but
it has to have been a survivability thing. So I'm
to
guessing
make sure that Herax is even less likely to live. And
determined effort. Wow, he is putting a huge amount of value in getting this
4
kill.
dice, flanked, reroll.
I can't imagine we would see we could see a Final Frenzy off this, depending on how important.
You have to wonder, why is Daniela putting this much effort into taking Herax off the board?
Double rerolls for some reason, but we have 2 crits and a flank. That'll take him off.
Flanked.
And he's just pulling him straight off the board, so figuring
no chance to save him there. So Herax down, 1 bounty going over to Daniela, and that'll tie the game up. Now only the Gorehulk left. No bothering to use Final Frenzy there. But interestingly, the Thriceful Discord having used their Vile Temptations ability there, I was surprised to see that used. He already had a relatively high chance of success against Herax, and dumping so many resources into that attack really makes me wonder what objective card Danielle is working towards that he needed Herax on.
I think that there must have been a. It would have been surprising to me if James had placed Utter Ignorance on Herax.
Perhaps, yeah.
That feels like the only card that he would have used that for, but uncertain. We're going to see if we can get an update on what upgrades are out on the Gorehulk so we can have a better idea.
All right, the Gorehulk charge coming in. Curiously, it looks like he may land in the Stagger Hex. Or run through the Stagger Hex to get there. And with Fury of Actually, he does want to be adjacent to both fighters, meaning that the only thing they can do is take a charge. So maybe worth staggering yourself because you won't actually get attacked back if you can land adjacent to both. Unless Daniela has some kind of push ability to get out of town.
All right. Judge confirming for us that it was Utter Ignorance that got peeled off with Vile Temptation. That's 2 games in a row that he's used that for.
Yeah. I mean, it does make sense to save Vile Temptation for that specific card in this matchup. Herax would not have died, and then you would have had to attack him a 3rd time to possibly take him out. And that's a lot of expenditure for only 1 bounty, so it does make some sense.
Now we're seeing this this hand counting out spaces is actually Daniele counting out where he thinks that the Gorehulk might land. That's telling me that Daniele's got some sort of push or movement tech in there. His concern has to be that the Gorehulk's going to come charging in. The Gorehulk does have headlong charge for +2 move, so he's got a move of 5. So he could come flying in, and then because he's got Fury of Actually and both those fighters have charged, he would lock them down. We got hidden headlong charge, hidden aid, duelist,
Fury of Actually,
and
Keen Eye for +1 dice. So whether or not Gorehulk hits anyone here is almost irrelevant to the fact that he is attempting to land in that position where he's flanked.
Yeah.
But that Fury of Actually means that charge is the only option available to those fighters. With charge tokens already on them, they cannot charge. And that effectively would take activations away from Daniela, forcing him to either use a push card or waste an activation with a focus. James already knows where he wants to go, but Daniela really wants to consider all of the positional options before they're allowing him to take that action. So look forward to seeing what cards are in Daniela's hand to make use of that.
James flicking his action counter going, heading not quite.
Look at the surprise on everyone's face as he went nowhere near where we thought he would go. Fury of Actually not coming into play here at all. Duelist, though, he could push himself closer to Vexmore after the fact.
We've got a crit. We got one crit. Daniele can defend
hidden
this.
aid, actually, making it so that those flank supports don't count because he's not adjacent, though.
Right.
So only the one crit. However, Vexmore did fail the attack, takes 3 damage. And now we'll have to ask, are you driving him into the stagger? He is not.
No, this was James's final action of the
James
round.
Using Duelist to get onto the enemy territory. Also scoring a surge for doing so.
Frenzied Rush. There's going to be a discussion here about whether the Duelist into enemy territory will help him score this.
We had this question earlier in the tournament, and I feel like the answer was yes at that time, but we'll require clarification here as well, because during the attack, he was not in enemy territory.
Yeah.
After the attack, he uses Duelist to push, but after the attack, after the action step, rather, is when the card is scored. So the question is, at what point is action step versus attack? Where are those windows aligned? Judging team clarifying for our players. We'll let you know what we find out when we find it out. The rule book is coming out and the FAQ document as well.
Looks like he has been able to score it. James retaking the lead, now 11-12. Vexmore is 2 hits to kill now. He has 2 health remaining, but he, of course, has Utter Ignorance. And the Gore Hulk, with a clean sheet, will take at least 2 and probably 3, given that much blood tithe on the board.
All right, Arena Mortis has been scored. Some more glory coming out for both players.
On both sides,
both
Arena
scoring
Mortis.
Arena Mortis, which is part of what this Reckless Fury counter match looks like. Keep Chopping scored as well. And that card plays off to the side. Not clear if it's been scored or not. We'll try and tally up the physical
That's
glory.
Bloody Momentum. I'm fairly confident that's not going to score.
I think that's why he placed it off to the side, saying, I don't get this one, but I will be discarding it. Right.
Not entirely sure what this one floating glory over on James's board is.
Not sure if the players have drawn their glory for scores or not, but James working on drawing up his cards and has pushed that floating glory over into the stack, so we can assume that that's true. James is at 15. I'll see if I can find out what Daniela is
I think Daniela is going to...
Looks like Daniela has 16 glory right now, so up by 1 if I'm able to read that correctly. Which will give James the underdog status for this priority roll, and so he should have a 61% chance to win. So decent odds that he'll find himself.
It's like Blade Catcher is coming in on the Gore Hulk.
So now, even if Vexmore manages to get Indolent, he'll have +1 dice, but he will not have Grievous, which will make Gore Hulk much more difficult to take down.
Yeah, Gore Hulk holding 5 health. It means that it's going to take him. It's going to take 3 attacks. Well, I take that back. If you can get an attack in with Lassavir, because that's at 3 damage with the ability,
Slash,
2 and 1.
It'll chip out some more blood ties, which will give a better chance for Final Frenzy. But I'm not sure if Daniela has other play options. A couple comments in the chat while we're waiting for them to finish drawing up their cards. Someone asking to explain Utter Ignorance. That's an incredibly important card in this matchup. Utter Ignorance is an upgrade available in the Reckless Fury deck. It says, if this fighter would be slain, destroy this card and put them on 1 health remaining. So basically, you got to kill me twice if you want me out of town. Vexmore currently has that card on, so you'll have to hit Vexmore for lethal damage, and then 1 more time if you want to kill him. Herax had that earlier, but Daniela able to use one of his abilities to remove that card. And so in this matchup, and we're likely to see it in the finals as well. Both players from both tables likely taking the card. It's going to say that effectively whoever has this will survive one hit longer than you may have expected.
Yeah. Daniele is got a lead of 1. It feels like a big ask for him to take down the Gorehulk, if I'm being honest.
I don't think I would even try at this point, but again, there's a reason I'm sitting beside someone and not across from someone at the World Tournament.
What this tells me is that I think Vexmore must have Fury of Akshi in hand.
Oh, interesting, because he's not currently equipped with it that I can tell.
Oh no, I take it back. That is one of his. No, that's I'm looking at
That's
the Gorehulk.
The Gorehulk has it.
2 successes.
That's why I was interested that he charged adjacent, unless he also has Fury of Akshi. 2 successes for Vexmore. And a crit
Reroll.
on a
he chose to
reroll, so
reroll into
excellent use of a reroll there. And it scores him critical effort.
Wow.
So 2 surge for that attack. Gorehulk taking 2 damage.
Now by charging here, he
and charging
has given
adjacent
the
is
Gorehulk
really
a chance to
interesting.
attack from enemy territory.
So far has not driven Gorehulk back, possibly because we're going to see Fury of Akshi come out, like you said. One more question from the chat. How has the general atmosphere been at the Worlds Tournament with a new edition? The vibe coming from the stream seems extremely positive, and I wondered if that was generally the case.
I would say so. I think the only negative that I'm seeing is just it's a disappointing to have such a skewed portion of the warband representation. We see Great Fortitude coming down on the Gorehulk. Such a skewed representation. It just means players have played a lot into a lot of the same matchup, and there's been a lot of mirror matches.
Yeah.
I think absent that piece, I think people have been enjoying it. There has, as we've seen on these streams, there's been a ton of counterplay. There's been a lot of things that people really liked about first edition. Trying to predict what's in your opponent's deck, positioning, even in this here, just kind of an incredible amount.
Yeah, pretty much everyone I've spoken to is also having a lot of fun. They're saying, you know, I lost this game, but he was a great opponent, great guy. You've got to realize that the people who are here are people who have won large local tournaments and then have traveled, in many cases, considerable distance from home to come play with like-minded individuals from across the world. And they're all here to enjoy this thing that we love together. And the changes...
James calmly focusing here.
I mean, not even choosing to punch back at Vexmore is a surprise, but maybe there's a card he feels like he needs before he does it. But to cycle back, yes, the only real comment I've heard that doesn't fit the extreme positivity side of the equation is, well, I did have to play Dromm 3 times. And it's, you know, you don't want to play the same matchup over and over and over again, especially if you're the Dromm player, because then you find that, you know, there is a little less variety there. So unfortunate that we did have such a large portion of the field taking the same effective pairing.
Yeah.
But, save for that piece, Underworld 2nd Edition looks like all the good things we're used to and some new good ones as well. I actually find that this is a pretty refreshing change, and I've been very positive on it before, but I'm even more so now.
It is I think what's encouraging too is to see, you know, so this is a game I played most of my games with my 10-year-old son. Now, I'm not saying it's a game that's great for every 10-year-old. Is a kid who plays like a ton of board games, so he gets into it. But it was accessible enough that we were able to play. But to go from like that game and then see this level, like I played Thricefold Discord several times with him, and to see the things that like Daniele is doing with this warband, I was like, whoa! Like this guy's seeing the Matrix. You know, I was looking at some of the abilities, I'm like, it seems fine, or I don't know how I'm going to use that. And he's leveraging every part of the War Scroll.
Yeah. So one of the key parts of any game is that it's easy to learn but hard to master, and Underworlds maintains that trait in the 2nd edition. Perhaps even easier to learn now, but no less hard to master. And the masterful players, as we've seen here, are able to do some amazing things.
If you're only tuning in for this final day, the semifinals, and then eventually finals, I can say that we sort of aggressively pursued as many of the different warbands as we could prior to switching into bracket play. We had 6 rounds of pool play, and I think we only showed the one Gorechosen during
Only
that
once
time.
in the pool play, yes.
So we got a wide variety. You kind of get your first chance to see some of these war bands play. Somebody asked us yesterday what our favorite was, or what war band were we most surprised by, and that was tough to answer, because every time I'd say one, and somebody in the chat would bring up another one, like, oh yeah, that was great too.
Yeah, there were a lot of good, interesting things coming out.
Yeah.
Pretty much every warband has something exciting to show. So, all right, we have
Daniela now also
I think
focusing.
That's a focus, yeah. Not wanting to put Lassevier out and also get the Fury of actually charge out. So, both players digging for whatever card they really need as they come towards the end of this game. And with, again, the spread only 3 in favor of the Italian, just like last time, it could be anyone's game.
As players in the different worlds and other parts of the championship bracket finish their gathering over here, we have a token just went down on Lassevier.
Possible that it was, I forget the name of the card from Reckless Fury, where you give a fighter a charge token that'll access charged out, but with Fury of Actually, that may not have been the best choice, so I'm not sure what I'm seeing there, unless he placed him on guard for some reason. I can't imagine.
He's put himself in the braced position. I wonder if there's no way. I don't think
braced is to give a charge position, so I don't know what the thought is there, but I'm sure there's something that Danielle is cooking up, because he surprised me twice already, and I'm ready to be surprised again.
I mean, I have to say, even James taking the focus action was
why would you not have
me.
attacked with Gorehulk? There must be some card he wants before he does that. What that card is, I couldn't guess at, and perhaps Daniela can, but we'll only have to be in the dark till it comes out. And playing the same rituals before, looking at each other's scored objectives, guessing at what the other has. What are you focusing for that I don't know about? This is the kind of thing top-level players can do.
Yeah.
And they're intimately familiar with these decks, despite only having them for a short amount of time.
Mr. Nakabu, I would assume the focusing away twist the knife is going to be because Blade Catcher has been played, I think, on possibly both fighters at this point.
Yeah,
meaning that no rune marks are going to be both fighters. I guess there's certainly one fighter out here that doesn't have it.
Not the fighter that I think the Gorehulk cares to deal with right now, though. So yeah, you could play that card and give yourself Grievous, but it wouldn't apply. So why have it eat space in your hand? So choosing to focus that to draw another card in its place, depending on what he gets, could be the difference maker.
Orion, no, this is game 2. Daniele from Italy, his Thricefold Discord took game 1. And if you want to keep track, we usually catch up, but right at the top of the screen, you'll see we're in game 2, round 3. I think you're right. I think he knew he needed a particular surge in hand before he started swinging attacks. He's down by 3.
Well, a notable, Vexmore has Utter Ignorance, which means that Gorehulk will have to charge, and then will be charged out. If he remains adjacent, he can't activate again.
Yeah.
So if you are looking for that attack surge, you only get one chance at it, depending on how things go.
Yeah.
And
really, James asking one more time to look through. By setting this up, though, Gorehulk, unless he's got some sort of a ping that we haven't seen, I don't think that would be the case with this deck pairing. Gorehulk is going to have to land both attacks on Vexmore because of Utter Ignorance.
Yes.
So
he'll hit once, Utter Ignorance will go, and he'll have to hit him again. But if he charges to 2 away, then Vexmore will be able to punch back.
Yeah.
So that's another risk that he's taking. Now, the Gorehulk, relatively survivable, but if you miss and Vexmore hits twice, you'll have to rely on Final Frenzy to save you.
Yeah. Gorehulk also, there's not a lot of he's going to have to do this with the not with the range 1 attack. Often he's got access to this. Hey, I can get 2 damage pretty reliably through with my 5 hammer range 1 attack, but that one does 2 damage because it has Grievous, and Grievous is not going to help here because Vexmore has Blade Catcher.
Yeah.
So that attack is off the table until Vexmore is dead the first time. If you can get him down to vulnerable, you can follow up with one of those hits. Both players looking through. They know that if Daniela takes this, then this match is over. So James is playing for his tournament life right now.
Got to make sure that you make the exact best play if you want to force a game 3. And you'd hate to go home early because you made a mistake. So being very deliberate, very careful. And James has been that way throughout the match, but if ever so, he needs to be that way now. All right, it looks like he's ready, turning that activation token. James of England about to fight for his tournament life. What will he do? Reaching across the table, the Gorehulk charges
It is
to
a charge.
2 away. This will prevent Fury of Action from locking him out. We'll be seeing a 3-dice attack. I don't believe he has more than 1 reroll.
Oh, no.
Oh, not the results you want. There's
There's
1 crit. Fortunately, he did get something. And
there's the
that
shield.
is a success.
That may be decisive.
That may be the game. Challenge with playing a strike warband is sometimes you do live and die by the dice and you cannot control them. Disappointing for James. Adjusting his shirt. Lassevier stepping onto an objective. And now
Looking
with
for
the glare off, we
tiebreakers.
can see
Now we're doing
that
the tiebreaker game.
That was a shield, like a guard token, and not a charge that was put on Lassevier. So Vexmore not in the charged out state, unable to attack back.
I could not see that card that flashed by. It may have been Reckless Attitudes, which says you have to charge if you're going to do anything.
And since neither one can,
yeah,
Gorehulk won't even be able to swing a second time.
This is looking like that Daniela has managed to close it out.
Yeah, James running his hand through his hair.
We
He
have
may
the,
have come to the same conclusion.
Previous world champion Aman.
Get it done has just thrown charge
Okay.
token over to Lassevier, which means that Vexmore does have the opportunity to attack one more time. I'm not sure what he would want to do with
Don't
that.
know why.
Gorehulk is too far from being slain. But
oh, what if he's doing this to? Oh, that's just a move. So we obviously didn't see Reckless Attitudes. We've seen Arena Mortis from both. Pulling that charge token off. Maybe it's a. I'm still pursuing.
Well, now Vexmore making that charge after all. I don't know that he'll have the capacity to kill the Gorehulk. And again, we haven't seen Final Frenzy, so it may not work even if you do get him down.
There's a crit.
One
We're going to get an accurate reroll.
And I believe there's an accurate reroll. Daniela checking his cards to make sure that's true. Here comes 1 reroll. Still only 1 success. And 1 shield from the Gorehulk. And since they both have Blade Catcher, there's no way that's going through. So I think Gorehulk is pretty safely going to survive the rest of this round now. And they'll score out their cards, shake their hand.
And the shake hand.
And it looks like Daniela's taking it. So, all right. Excellent play from both. Did kind of come down to the last dice roll there in both games, and both players looking very carefully through each other's objective decks to make sure that they knew what was available and what could be scored. And I think these players, both very canny, both very experienced, even with the short turnaround time for this event. They both knew exactly what needed to get done, and they both executed to the best of their ability. And once they dropped the cards, there was no need to think. They both knew the results. So incredibly high-level play, experience, and talent that we've seen here, and just remarkable overall. The level of play at this tournament so soon into second edition. I can only imagine what next year's tournament will look like.
Yeah. Daniela describing he's pointing out an early miss in the first round of that game. He's declaring that to be decisive, where we saw Dromm getting dropped.
Yes, early on.
Yep. Just incredible. We are going to see Daniela again. He's made it to the finals, and that's what we're be streaming. Daniela's going to have to do this again, but he's done it many times.
Yeah, it's now his 4th or 5th consecutive Dromm he's been able to chew through. There will be one more in the final. The question still open. Will he be playing his Italian teammate for the title of world champion, or will he be fighting a Canadian? That game in its 3rd of 3. I do not have eyes on whether or not one player is ahead. We'll see pretty soon what that pairing will be, and we'll be coming to you shortly with that second game. I believe there is going to be a break between as players kind of get a chance to reset themselves, and we all gather around to watch the World Championship Finals.
I can see the board from over here. Both players, neither player is wiped out in that other semi, but it is still ongoing. I think I see 2 Dromms and a Gorehulk still on the board, but not sure from what side. So
not particularly useful information, but the game is being played. So there you go.
The game is being played. It is not over. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to leave this up for a little while. We're going to give the players a chance to recover, and we'll be back at you with the final. That is currently scheduled for, I believe, 2 p.m. our time.
That sounds
Which would be
reasonable.
7
Yeah.
p.m. Let me confirm that before I lock that in, because I've been wrong about the times multiple times. Sometimes it's my fault. Sometimes it's the nature of things. Yes, 2 p.m. local. That'll be 7 p.m. UK time. That's when our final is going to be. And we already know the war bands. It's going to be Thrice Full Discord versus Gorechosen of Dromm, but we
So
just don't know.
another one of the ones you just saw. Perhaps some different deck pairings, perhaps some different cards. We do know that Mateo has taken the
Countdown to Cataclysm with his.
so it is a little different than your typical Dromm.
Yeah.
I'm not sure of what Maxim's taken, but either way, we will be seeing some technical play.
Yeah.
If anyone has an answer to this thrice full build.
No one has so far. Not a single match lost through pool play, and not a single game lost in the tournament bracket.
Yeah, very impressive out of Italians in general so far.
All right, folks. We'll have this up for a little while longer. We'll look in for any last questions you have before we shut it down, and then we'll be hopping over. We'll be starting a new one for the finals. And again, that's looking like it's going to be in about 2 hours' time. Wow, that's about the longest break we've had all weekend.
Yeah, we may fill it with some interviews if we are able to get the stream up for that. But in any case, enjoy yourselves out there. Have a great Sunday. Don't forget to come back for the tournament final where we determine the world champion of Warhammer Underworlds 2024.
Find it right here on this channel.